everyone, my name is Ayushi and I welcome you all to this Django full course session. Now I know many of you will be excited just by its name, but before we actually get our hands on it, let's see what's our agenda for today. So we'll start off this session by having a quick introduction to Python and why do we need it. We'll also have a look at the various libraries that Python offers and why Django is so important. We'll also have a look at the Django's features and its architecture. Now Django offers a MVC-MVT architecture, which basically means Model View Controller and Model View Template. Then we'll move forward and learn the prerequisites to learn Django, and we'll also see how to install Django. Then comes the most exciting part, that is how to create a website from the scratch. Now this will include both your front end as well as back end. Now we'll also see how do you connect databases with the project, and we'll also test the application. Moving ahead, we'll see the Django REST framework and how do you create RESTful APIs using Django. Moving ahead, we'll also see some do's and don'ts and some frequently asked questions regarding Django. And finally, I'll wrap up this session by discussing some of the important Django interview questions and answers. So I hope you guys are clear with the agenda. So let's begin. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Edureka YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you.
We shall first begin with a small introduction to Python, followed by the different web development frameworks that are available in Python. Then, we shall take a look at what exactly is Django and the features of it. Following that, we shall take a deep look at the architecture of Django, followed by its installation, and then I'll be showing you all how to create your own website from scratch. Finally, I'll be covering a few Django interview questions before winding up. Okay, so without any further delays, let's get started. Python, as we all know, is a high-level interpreted programming language created by Guido van Rossum in 1991. It's a great general-purpose language capable of creating anything from desktop software to web applications and frameworks. Talking about web applications in particular, Python allows you to dynamically build web applications, grants ease to build multi-protocol networks, provides quick processing, lets you build more functions with fewer lines of code, and the best of all, you don't usually mess up using Python unlike other languages. Apart from that, Python also provides a number of web development libraries such as CherryPy, Django, Web2Py, Pyramid, TurboGez, Flask, etc. Talking about Django, it's a high-level Python web development framework that encourages rapid development and clean, pragmatic design. Django is an open-source web framework which was named after Django Reinhardt. It follows the principle of don't repeat yourself. As the name says, the principle is all about keeping the code simple and non-repeating. Django is also a high-level MVT architect which stands on the model view template. Django, along with Python, is used by many of the top companies such as Google, YouTube, Dropbox, etc. Now, the reason why all these companies make use of Python along with Django is because of the remarkable features that Django provides. Now, the reason why these companies make use of Python along with Django is because of the key features of Django. Django is extremely fast and encourages rapid development with a clean, pragmatic design. Like I've already mentioned before, it's free and open source, which helps developers to complete their app as fast as possible. Apart from its speed, Django also provides a huge number of packages that help you develop your websites faster and easier. It is also highly secure and scalable. Last but not the least, Django is versatile, which allows you to build any sort of web application you desire. So now let's move on and take a look at the Django architecture. Django follows the MVC-MVT architecture. MVC actually stands for Model View Controller. It is used for developing web applications where we break the code into three different segments, namely model, view, and the controller. A model is basically used for storing and maintaining your data. It is the backend where the database is defined. A view is all about the presentation and it is not at all aware of the backend. So basically, whatever the user sees on a web page is returned by the views component. The controller, on the other hand, is of business logic which will interact with the model and the view. Now talking about the MVT or the model view template structure. In the MVT architecture, there's a predefined template for the user interface. For example, say you want to write several static HTML forms like hello user 1, hello user 2, and so on. With template, you'll be having only one file that prints hello along with the variable name. Now, this variable will be substituted in that particular template using some Jinja logic. That's the magic of template. You don't need to rewrite the code again and again. In case of MVT, Django itself takes care of the controller. The controller is inbuilt into Django and you don't have to bother about it. So taking a deeper look at what we were talking about before, so basically a template is a front end which will interact with the views and the model will be used as the back end. The views basically access both the model and the templates and maps it to the URL. After that, Django plays the role of controller and serves it to the user. So given this, I'm sure you have a brief idea about what is Django and its architecture. So now let's move on and see what are the prerequisites required to learn Django. The first thing that you'll have to know is the OOPS concepts. This is because we'll be creating many classes, objects, subclasses, etc. Also, you'll have to know how to use the Python programming language, SQL queries, HTML, CSS, etc. In case you have difficulties with any of these, you can check out Edureka's YouTube channel and the blog series, which will surely help you. So moving on, I'll be showing you all how to install Django on your systems. Okay, so one thing I want you all to note is that I'll be using PyCharm. You can use any IDE of your choice, but personally, I feel PyCharm is the best for creating websites. So the first thing you'll have to do is download Python on your PCs. To do that, you can go to the official Python website, go to Downloads, and select any version that's suitable for your PCs. And select the installer that is suitable with your operating system. Once you've downloaded Python, you'll have to go to the JetBrains website to download PyCharm on your PCs. So after downloading Python, after you're done with the setup, go to the Advanced System Settings, choose the option of Environment Variables, and over here, in the System Variables, choose the new option and type Python_home. Now to enter the value of this variable, you'll have to look for the path where you've installed Python on your PCs. To do that, you can simply type Python in the search bar, right-click on it and open the file location. After this, simply copy the path and enter it as the value of this variable. Then click on OK. So after you've done that, select the path variable that's present. Select the path variable and towards the end of it, if you don't see a semicolon, add a semicolon and within 2% symbols, as you can see over here, write Python_home. Once this is done, click on OK. So now to download PyCharm on your PCs, simply type download PyCharm and then you can download it from the official JetBrains website. Select the version that's suitable for your OS and you can choose between the professional and the community version, where the professional version is paid and the community version is free. So after you're done with the PyCharm installation, complete the setup and open PyCharm on your PCs. Since I already have it downloaded on my PC, I'll just open PyCharm. So once you're done with the setup, you'll be seeing something similar to what you see on the screen when you open up PyCharm. I've already created a project over here. However, if you want to create a project, click on File and select New Project. It will ask you to enter some name. Just give some name of your choice and hit the Create button. Okay, so after creating a project, open up the terminal and type pip install Django. So when you're installing Django, along with Django, SQL parse database and the pytz module also gets installed. SQL parse is actually a non-validating SQL parser for Python. It provides support for parsing, splitting, and formatting SQL statements. Now, this is actually compatible with the versions of Python from 2.7. The pytz module brings the Olsen TZ database into Python. This library allows accurate and cross-platform time zone calculations using Python 2.4 and higher. It also solves the issue of ambiguous times at the end of daylight saving time. However, this library differs a little from the documented Python API for tz-info implementations. So now coming back towards Django, once the installation is completed, you will see a message saying successfully installed Django and the version of Django. Now, to cross-verify if Django has been successfully installed, go to the command prompt and type Python-m Django-version. So as you can see, when you type this command, it returns the version of Django that's been installed. So now going back to PyCharm, I'll be showing you all how to create a Django project. To create a new project, you'll have to make use of the Django admin. To do that, type Django-admin start project followed by the name of the project. You can give any name of your choice, guys. I'll just name it as website. I've made a spelling mistake. I've missed N from Django. So now my project has been created and I'll just cd into my project. So cd and the name of the project, which is website. So now I'm in the project that I've created with the help of the Django admin. To see what the Django admin has created for you within this project, click on the project directory. So as you all can see on the screen, the Django admin has created a number of files for us. The outer website root directory is just a container for your project. The name, however, does not matter to Django, and you can name it as anything you like. After that, the very important file that Django creates for you is the manage.py file. The manage.py file does the same thing as Django admin, but takes care of a few things for you. It puts your project's package on the system path. It sets the Django settings module environment variable so that it points to your project settings.py file. Next is the init.py file. This is an empty file that tells Python that this directory should be considered as a Python package. A package is a way of structuring Python's module namespace by using dotted module names. The init.py files are required to make Python treat directories containing the file as packages. This prevents directories with a common name unintentionally hiding valid modules to occur later on the module search path. In the simplest case, init.py can just be an empty file, but it can also execute initialization code for the package. Followed by that is the settings.py file. This file actually consists of the settings or the configurations for this Django project. The Django settings.py file contains all the configurations for your Django installation. It's basically just a Python module with module level variables. Because the settings file is a Python module, it does not allow Python syntax errors. It does not allow for Python syntax errors, and it can assign settings dynamically using normal Python syntax. It can also import values from other settings files. So now let's take a look at the urls.py file. Let me just clear these comments. The urls.py file consists of all the URL declarations for the Django project. It is basically like a table of contents of your Django path site. So basically, when a user requests for a page from your Django path site, this file determines which Python code to execute. Django determines the root URL conf module to use, loads that Python module, and looks for the variable URL patterns. So this should actually be a part of the URL's instances. Django then runs through each URL pattern in order and stops at the first one that matches the requested URL. Once that is matched, Django imports and calls the given view, which is a simple Python function that returns to the user the page that he has requested. So now let me show you all the WSGI file. The WSGI.py file is an entry point for the WSGI compatible web servers to serve your project. WSGI actually stands for Web Server Gateway Interface. It is a specification that describes how a web server communicates with the web applications and how the web applications can be chained together to process one request. So now I hope you have a clear idea about what these files are and what is the purpose of creating them. Now, to make sure that your project is running, simply type python manage.py run server. Sorry, I forgot to give a space over here. Okay, so as you can see, when I hit this command, it has returned a URL for me. Now let me show you all what happens when I click on this URL. So congratulations guys, when you see this rocket which is ready to take off, it means you've installed Django successfully without crashing your systems. So now I'll get back to PyCharm and show you all how to create an app. Okay, so now let's get back to PyCharm. The development server, however, will be running unless and until you press Ctrl+C in the terminal. All the changes that you make to your project will be seen on the development server just by refreshing the page. Therefore, you don't have to type python manage.py command each time. At this point of time, I want you all to know the difference between a website and a web application. A website is actually a bigger domain that contains different web applications. A web application is a part of a website. If you're calling a website, your website is basically the main project which contains many other web applications in it. So whenever you visit any website, it consists of different applications that are joined together to make one complete website. The application is basically a sub-part of that website which has a specific task. An app is basically a web application that does something. A project, on the other hand, can maintain multiple apps, and an app can be in multiple projects. Okay, so now to create an app, I'll go back to my terminal, hit Ctrl+C, and then type python manage.py start app followed by the name of the app. You can give any name of your choice. I'll just name it as technical courses. Sorry guys, I've given a space by mistake. So now my app technical courses has been created. Now when I go back to my project, I can see over here that my app technical courses has been created. When you open this, you can find that Django has created many other files again for us. The apps file, which consists of a class for all the installed apps, models, which I've already explained to you all before, a tests.py file, and the views file. So now let me run my server again. So one thing I want you all to note is that Django already knows that each website will have an admin section. To access that, you can simply type / and then hit admin. So when I type admin over here, you can see that it's throwing an error. Now this is because we've not created any admin. I just came to this page to show you guys that this page actually exists and it's already created, and the settings for it have already been created by Django. So now let's get back to our home page. So my first bit of code for my website I'll be writing in the views file. So when you open the views file, you can see that Django has already imported render. But for this case, I'll not be using the render method. I'll be using the HTTP response method instead. So to do that, I'll type from django.http import HTTP response. Both the lines are not highlighted because I'm not making use of those functions anywhere in my program. So to define a new function in Python, you'll have to make use of the def keyword. After that, you'll have to specify some name for your function. In my case, I'll just name it as courses. And within this, I'll pass the request function as a parameter. Now all I want my function to do is to return a message saying that this is my home page. To do that, I'll just write return, and I'll be using the HTTP response function over here. And then I'll just give a h1 tag. Sorry, I have to specify this within quotes. And I'll write this is my home page. So now the views component is ready to display this message on my home page. But to make this function return what I want, I'll have to connect this views.py file to the urls.py file which is present in my project. So to connect the views.py file which is present in my app to the urls.py file which is present in the project, I'll have to create another urls.py file within my app. Now this is done because I do not want to mess up with the original urls.py file which is present in my project. So in case you have a number of URLs and apps to be returned, the original urls.py file present in my project can get too cluttered and that becomes messy. And to avoid that, I'm going to create another urls.py file within my app, which is also the conventional method. So now this urls.py file is very much similar to the urls.py file which is present within my project. So all I'm going to do within the newly created urls.py file in my app directory is to import the path function from django.urls. So from django.urls, I'll import the path function. So now for the URLs pattern, I'll just copy this and I'll paste it in the urls.py file of my app. And I'll just delete this admin URL and I'll leave this blank. Now I'm leaving this blank because I want this function to be returned on my home page. Okay, so now what you have to do is specify the views.courses function within the urls.py file present in your app. To do this, just type views.name of the function, which is courses in my case, followed by the name of your page. You can give any name of your choice. I'll just name it as homepage. Now, as you can see, I've added the function present in the views file in the URL path, but I'll have to specify from where this function has to be taken. To do that, I'm going to import the views function present in this directory. And for that, I'll type from.import views. Now getting back to the urls.py file present in my project, I'll have to include the path of my home page. So I'll create another path function, and within this, I'll specify an empty string and then use the include function and specify what I want to include over here. So basically, I want to import this file, which is technicalcourses/urls.py. So I'm going to specify that as technicalcourses.urls. After this, I'll just close this function and close the path function. Okay. So one thing I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've made use of the include function, but I've not imported this function. this function has to be imported from django.urls. So to import that function, I'll just write comma include. So now I'll get back to the development server and see what it returns. Congratulations, guys. This time, instead of seeing the rocket that was ready to be launched, my website is displaying the message that I wanted to display. So now your website is ready to be launched. Okay, so our website is executing very well, but I want to show you all something that's displayed as a message for me in the terminal. So as you can see, it says you have 17 unapplied migrations, and it says your project may not work properly until you apply the migrations for the apps. Now this is basically to notify you that your app or your project has not been connected to the database. So coming back to the project directory over here, you see something called as the db.sqlite3. So this is basically the default database that is installed along with Django. The settings for this database are already included in the settings.py file. So let me just clear the comments over here. And within the settings.py file, I'll just look for databases. So as you can see over here, the default database SQLite3 has already been installed for us by Django. However, if you wish to use any other database, install the appropriate database bindings and change the keys in the database's default item to match your database connection settings. However, for a detailed information on this, you can check out the original documentation where you'll find all the details required for the settings of the database you prefer to use. In addition to databases, the settings.py file also has installed apps. Now to show you all what that exactly is. So basically, django.contrib.admin is the admin site. Django.contrib.admin is for the admin site. Auth is for the authentication system. Content type is basically a framework for the content types. Sessions is for a session framework. Messages for a messaging framework. And static files is a framework for managing the static files. So now to connect my project to the database, I'll hit Ctrl+C again in my terminal. And over here, I'll type the command python manage.py migrate. So now I'll run my server again and show you what it displays this time. So as you can see, unlike before, I have got a message saying system check identified, no issues. So this means our project has been connected to the database successfully. Now what exactly happens over here is the migrate command looks at the installed app settings and creates any necessary database tables according to the database settings in your settings.py file. Then the database migrations are shipped with the app. So now that my project has been connected to the database, the next thing that I'm going to do is create models for my website. So to create models, I'll go to the models.py file, which is already created for me by Django. I'll clear this comment over here. And as you can see, it has already imported models for me. So within this file over here, I'll be creating two classes where the first class will be the all courses class, and it's going to hold the name of the course and the instructor's name. To do that, I'll just type class and give the name as all courses. You can give any name of your choice, guys. Now within this, I'll just write models.model. Now, like I've already told you all, within this class, I'm going to write the name of the course and the name of the instructor. So for that, I'll just take a variable, say course name, and then I'll specify this to models dot. Since this is going to be characters, I'll use the function. Since this is going to hold only characters, I'm going to use the function char field. And for the length of this, I'll just specify as max length equal to anything, say 200. After this, I'll just write the instructor's name. So I'll just take a variable, say ins name. And again over here, I'll use the char field method. And I'll give a max length of say 100. Okay, so the first class has been created. Now I'll create another class which is going to hold the details of each course. So to do that, I'll just type class and I'll say details as the name of this function. So as many of you know, the course types that are available at Edureka are either self-paced or instructor-led. So I'll create the same over here. I'll say self-paced or I'll just say SP. And over here, I'm going to do something very interesting. So before I do that, I'm going to create another variable, say course, and using this variable, I'll connect this subclass to the main class using the foreign key method. To do that, I'll just type models.foreign key. And since this method is inheriting the all courses method, I'll just type all courses. And then I'm going to use the onDelete function. Now you all might be wondering why I'm using this function. Okay, I'll just tell you that in a while, and I'll just type models.cascade. Okay, the purpose of using this onDelete function over here is because in case I delete any course present in all courses section, I want to delete the details of that function as well. So in case you have any other website wherein it's not necessary to delete something present in the details section, when you delete an object of your main class, you may omit using the onDelete attribute. So within this, like I already told y'all, I'm going to have two variables, which is for the self-paced, and over here again, I'll be making use of the char field function. So to specify that, I'll just take a variable, say sp, and then I'll use the same function again, just to specify what is present in that course. Now the length of it can be changed according to your preferences. So in this case, I'll just change it to 500 so that I can specify all the topics. The second type of course that's available is the instructor-led courses. So for that, I'll just take a variable, say il, and again, I'll be using the same function, and I'll change the length to 500. Okay, so now I've created models for my project. So basically, each class that I've created over here is a subclass of the django.db.models.model. Each model has a number of class variables. Both my classes have a few variables, each of which represents a database field in the model. Now this field is actually represented by an instance of the field class. For example, the char field function that I used over here for characters. This basically tells Django what type of data each field holds. So now talking about the foreign key function that I've used over here. Now this function is actually used to define a relationship. So it basically tells Django that each detail is related to a single course. In addition to this, the small bit of model code that we've written over here gives a lot of information. With this, Django is actually able to create the database schema or the create table statements for this app. It also creates a Python Access API for accessing all courses and the details classes. So now, to tell Django that we've installed an app into our website, all we have to do is go to the settings.py file, go to installed apps, and over here, you'll have to specify the name of your app, which in my case is technical courses. .apps. Go to the apps file over here, and from here, take the class name and paste it in the settings.py file where you're creating the app, and paste it over here. After this, just close the inverted commas and do not forget to specify the comma. Now, we've told Django that it has to include the technical courses app. After this, you'll have to run another command. So I'll just return the control back to my terminal, and I'll use the command python manage.py make migrations and the name of my app. Python manage.py make migrations and the name of my app. It has thrown an error. It says type error in the cascade function. So I'll just get back to models. Oh, here it is. I've not specified any attributes to this, so I'll just remove this from here. So I'll just clear the brackets, save this, come back to my terminal. So here it is. Make migrations basically tells Django that you've made some changes to the models, and that Django should store these changes as a migration. Migrations are basically how Django stores changes to your models. After this, you'll have to use the SQL migrate command that takes migration names and returns their SQL. So all you have to do is use python manage.py, SQL migrate, and specify this ID which is present over here. So it's not 1. So I'll just type the same and hit enter. I forgot to specify the name of my project. I'll just specify the name of my project over here. So as you can see, the table names are automatically generated by combining the name of the app and the lowercase name of the model. Also, the primary keys are added automatically. Now, all you have to do is run the migrate again to create a model table in your database. So here, I'll type python manage.py and migrate. So now, the migrate command takes all the migrations that haven't been applied and runs them against your database. Migrations are very powerful, guys, and this actually lets you to change your models over time as in how you require to develop your project. Because of this, you'll not have to delete your database or tables and make new ones. The reason that there are separate commands to make and apply migrations is because you'll commit migrations to your version control system and ship them to your app. They not only make your development easier, they're also usable by other developers and in the production. So now that my database is set, I'm going to jump on to the interactive Python shell to make use of the free API Django has given me. To open the shell, you can simply type the python manage.py shell command in the terminal or in the command prompt of your system. So I'll just open up the command prompt again. And over here, the first thing that I'm going to do is get into the directory where I'm creating my project. So to do that, I'll just cd into PyCharm projects / Django full course. I'll get into my website project and hit enter. Okay, now I'll just type in the command python manage.py and I'll specify shell and I'll use the shell command. Now I'm doing this because it's easy for y'all to see what exactly I'm doing with the database. The first thing that I'll have to do is import the classes that I've created in my models file. So for that, I'll just use from the name of my app, which is technical courses, dot models. I want to import the classes that I've created, which is courses and details. Let me look back into the name again so that I don't make any mistakes. It was models, and I'll just close this. It's not courses, it's all courses. And details. So before moving on, let me just show you all what is present in the all courses set. So to do that, I'll just have to type all courses dot objects dot all. So as you can see over here, it has returned that my set is empty. Naturally, it has to return an empty set because I've not added anything to the courses class yet. Now to add something to this class, I'm going to take a variable, say A, and then I'm going to take the name, and then I'll write the name of the class, which is all courses. Now within that, I'll have to specify the course name and the instructor name, since these are the two variables that I've created within my class. Now to do that, I'll just get back to the shell and I'll have to write the course name. Let me just cross-check the name again. So it's course name and INS name. So course name, I'll just say the course name is Python, followed by the name of the instructor, so INS name equals, I'll just take some random name, say XYZ. After this, I'll have to make use of the save function to save this to the database. Now, in case I want to print out the name of the course, I'll just have to use a.coursename and hit enter. So as you can see, when I remove the course name of A, it has returned that the course name of this is Python. So now, in case I want to add in more courses, I'll just take another variable, say B. I'll copy this. And for the course name, I'll just name it as Java. And for the instructor name, I'll just say ABC. After this, just like before, I'll have to save it. So I'll say b.save, hit enter. And now, just to show you all what is present within B, I'll use b.coursename and hit enter. So as you can see, when I used a.coursename, I got Python. And when I used b.coursename, I got Java as my output. Now, one more thing I want you guys to know is Django is going to assign some primary key to both these courses. So in case I want to retrieve the ID for Python and Java, all I have to do is hit a.id or a.pk, hit enter. So as you can see, when I hit a.id, it has returned the primary key for Python. Now you have another option over here. In place of ID, you can also make use of pk, which will return the same result. Let me just show that to you all. So I'll just use b.pk and hit enter. So as you can see, the primary key of B is 2 and the primary key of A is 1. So now let me show you all what is present within the database using the all function. So I'll just rerun the command I've used earlier, which is allcourses.objects.all, hit enter. So now our set is not empty, but you can see that it has returned something specifying the primary keys for both my courses. But this is not exactly very clear. Now to have a clear output, I'll just get back to my models file and I'll make a small change within the classes that I've created over here. I'll override the str function and then the default parameter for every Python class. So now if you have a doubt of why self has been added over here, you'll have to remember, guys, that whenever you're creating a function within a class, you will have to specify the self parameter. Unlike Java, in Python, it's compulsory to specify the self parameter. So now all I wanted to return is the name of the function. So I'll just say return self.course name. I'll do the same within the details class as well. And for the details class, I'll just return the self-paced course for now. So having added this str method, let me just tell you that it is very important to add this not only for your own convenience when dealing with the interactive prompt, but also because objects representations are used throughout Django's automatically generated admin. Save these changes, get back to your shell, and now I'll just exit this. I'll type python manage.py. I'll get into my shell again using python manage.py shell command. And after that, I'm going to run the previously used function again. That is allcourses.objects.all. Uh-oh, sorry guys, I forgot to import the functions. So first I'll have to import, and then I'll have to retrieve it. It has not returned the name of the course again. Seems like I've made some mistakes, so I'll just get back to the models file. Here it is. Instead of a double underscore, I've used the triple underscore. And since I copied that over here, let me remove that. Save this, get back to my shell, exit this one. And then I'm going to hit the python manage.py shell command again. Import my classes. And then I'll use allcourses.objects.all. Okay, so there it is. Instead of returning the primary key of both these courses, it has now returned the name of the courses which I wanted it to return. Not just this, guys, you can actually filter out anything you want from the database. To do that, you can make use of the filter command. So for that, you'll use allcourses.objects.filter. And within this, I'll just specify the parameter as id equal to 1. I'll hit enter. So as you can see, I've specified the id as 1 and it has filtered out Python and returned the same. Similarly, you can also make use of the get method. To do that, just specify get, and within that, I'll say id equal to 2. So now the get method has returned Java as the name of the course having id 2. Okay, so till now, we've been seeing how to add and filter items from the database. Now I'll get back to my PyCharm and show you all how you can actually work with the admin. To do that, open up the admin file present in the app. Now for this, I'll just open up the terminal, and over here, I'll just type the command python manage.py create superuser. Create superuser is one word, so just be careful, guys. So python manage.py create superuser. So the first thing it's going to ask you is to enter a username. I'll just enter the username as Edureka and hit enter. After this, it will ask you to enter some email address. You can specify any email address since this is just a test project. I'll just say edureka@gmail.com. After this, it will ask you to enter some password. I'll just use some password, say ABCD. I'll give some password of my choice. You can give any password of your choice, guys. Once I've entered that, I have to re-enter the password. So now, once the super user has been created, you will see this message saying super user created successfully. Now all you have to do is run your server again, and for that you'll have to make use of the python manage.py run server command. Okay. So this is my home page. Now to go to the admin section, within the address bar, I'll just type /admin. Okay, so here it is. The Django administration site has been opened. Now make sure you remember what was the username you entered and the password. So my username was Edureka, and I'll just enter the password that I had saved. Once I'm done with that, I'll log in. So as you can see over here, the Django administration site has opened. Now, to make my app modifiable in the admin, I'll have to import that into my admin.py file. To do that, I'll get back to my admin.py file, and within this admin.py file, I'll type from.models import the all courses class. Once I've done this, I'll type admin.site.register and the name of my class, which is all courses. I'll save this and I'll get back to my development server and I'll refresh this page. You can easily see the changes I've made to my project. The all courses class has been added to the admin section. Now when I click on this, you can see that both the courses that I had added in the database are shown up in my website. Now, in case you want to add in any other course, you can use the Add All Courses option over here and specify some other course name. This time I'll just say C. In the instructor name, I'll just use XXX. I'll save this. So as you can see, the course that I've added is C, and that has been added to the All Courses option in my website. Not just this, from the admin site, you can delete any course of your choice by just clicking on that and using the delete option that's present over here. So I hope you all have noticed that this form has automatically been generated from the All Courses model. So I hope you're clear till all that's been explained till here. Now I'll get back to PyCharm. I'll open the views file and I'll modify this. A view is basically a type of web page in your Django application, guys, that generally serves as a specific function and has a specific template. Say for example, you have a blog application. So in the blog application, you will have something called as the blog homepage. So for that, you'll have a blog homepage, detail page, etc. Now for my application, which is technical courses, I'm going to include the home page and the details page. So I'll open up the views file, and over here, I'll define another function and I'll name it as detail. I'll have to pass in the request parameter, and within this, I'll specify another argument to this function, which will be the course ID. So course underscore ID. And again, I'll write a return statement. So return HTTP response. So I'll just create a h2 tag at this time within quotes again. So h2. And I'll say that these are the course details. I'll just close the h2 tag again. I'll just save this. Now I'll have to go to the urls.py file of my app. And within this, I'll have to include the path for my details page. So for that, I'll just write path, which is the name of the function. Now over here, I'll just specify that int should be the course ID, which I specified earlier. And I'll have to end this with a backslash. Following this, I'll just have to write views.detail, and I'll give a name to this, saying that this is the details page. I'll close this function and write the comma. And not to forget the comma. Let me save this. I'll get back to my server, and over here, I'll go to my home page. Sorry guys, I've made a mistake over here. It's views.detail. Save this, and I'll rerun my server. Okay, so now I'll just specify the ID over here. I'll say the ID is 1 and hit enter. Okay, so as you can see over here, now it is returning what is present in my details page. So as you can see over here, I've specified the ID as 1, which is the primary key for Python. And when I hit enter, you can see that it has returned what I had specified in the details function. Now let me give some primary key that is not at all present in my database. Say for example 5 and hit enter. So as you can see, I had only 2 courses which had primary key 1 and 2. But when I have entered 5, even then it has returned the same page. Now, if you don't want your server to do this, you'll have to include the HTTP 404 function in your details page. So now let me define a little more to this function. Instead of returning that these are the course details, I'll include the ID along with this. So I'll just use for course ID, and over here, I'll just close this. I'll add the string of course ID. Please make a note that I'm using the same spelling I've used everywhere. Now I'll save this and I'll rerun my development server. Okay, I've just made a spelling mistake over here. However, that's just HTML, so I can change it anywhere. So having done this, I'll get back to my PyCharm to create some templates for my website. So before moving on towards the templates, I'm going to make a small change over here. I'll just remove this. I'll create a variable for all courses. So I'll just name it as AC. And within this, I'll save all the courses that are present in my database. So all courses.objects.all. Now I'll create another variable, say template, and I'll use the loader function and get underscore template. Okay, so I've forgotten to import the loader function. I'll import it over here. So from Django.templates, from Django.template, import loader. So now it should be fine. So now to create a template, I'll right click on the app that I've created, choose new directory, and I'll name it as templates. Now, within this templates directory, I'll create another subdirectory which will have the same name as my application. So I'll name it as technical courses. So if you're wondering why I'm doing it this way, it is just the standard convention to create templates within your code. It also makes it very easy for Django to look for templates within the app itself. So now within the subdirectory, I'll create an HTML file. And since this is for the courses page, I'll just write courses.html. So this is basically my home page also, guys. I'll just clear this. And over here, I'll just create a list, say ordered list. Within this, I'll just write some Python code. Remember that whenever you're including Python code within HTML, you'll have to do it within the curly braces and the ampersand symbols just as shown on screen. I'll just make use of the for loop. So for X in all courses, so within this, I'll create a list. And not just this, I'll create a link as well. So I'll link this. So I'll use the href function. So for that, I'll have to use the anchor tag and href. Now over here, I'll have to specify the name of my application. So that's technical courses / course ID. And then I have to close this. Now I'll just link this to the name of the course. So I'll use all courses dot course name. Okay, so that's it. Finally, I'll have to end for. So to do that, I'll have to do it the same way I've used for. So within the curly braces, 2 percentage symbols, which is going to contain the end for statement. I'll save this. Okay, so now I'll get back to my views function. And over here, I'll have to specify the path of my file, so which is within the technical courses directory. And the name of my file is courses.html. So over here, I'll create another variable named context. The context is a dictionary mapping template variable name to Python objects. So within this, I'll have to store the dictionary of all the elements or all the courses that are present. So that's AC. And now coming towards the return statement. So I want to return the template dot render, and that will be context and the request. So now my views file seems to be ready. I'll get back to my development server. Looks like something is missing over here. I have the list, but I do not have the items. So let me get back to my courses.html file and check what mistake I've made. Okay, so here it is. I'm using the for loop over here where I've used for X in AC. So now to actually return the items, instead of all courses, I'm supposed to use x.courseName. So now let me save this back to my server and I'll refresh this page. Okay, so here it is. As you can see, all the courses that are present in my database are returned on my home page. So I hope you all have understood till here. So now, what if the user requests for a course that does not exist on my website? In that case, I actually want to raise a 404 error. Many of you might be aware of the 404 error. It is the very famous page not found error. Django actually has a function named HTTP 404 which will allow you to raise this page not found error in case the user requests for something that's not present on your website. To do this, I'll be using the try and except blocks. So first I'll write the try block, and within this, I'll create a variable named course. I'll store all courses. So all courses.objects, and here I'll be using the get method with the primary key. So pk is equal to the course ID. Okay, so after this comes the except block. So here I'll be raising the does not exist except method. To do that, I'll just write all courses dot does not exist. Be careful with the spellings again. And then I'll just raise the HTTP 404 error. I'll specify some message saying course not available. So now I've actually not imported the HTTP 404 method. So I'll just import it over here. So HTTP 404. Okay. So looks cool. I'll have to change this. I'll change the return method from HTTP response to the render method. This is actually a shortcut method. You can specify the request parameter and the link to the details page as well as the dictionary as a parameter to this function. Okay, so just clear this up. And first I'll have to return the request. Then I'll have to specify the path of my details page. So it is within the technical courses template, and the name is details page. So detail.html. So I'll specify the course. Okay, now I'll save this. Now I'll get back to my details homepage. So my variable name is not AC, it's course. So course, I'll save this, get back to my development server, and over here, I'll just specify the primary key for Python, which was 1, and hit enter. So as we all know, the primary key for Python was 1, and when I've specified the primary key, it has returned Python, which is actually present in my details page. So now let me give some other ID and see what happens. So I'll specify 2. So the primary key for Java was 2, and therefore, when I've specified that, I've got the output as Java over here. Now, in case I specify some ID that's not present in my database, say for example 45, and hit enter. So here it is. The page not found error has been raised, and it says course not available. So I hope everyone's understood till here. So now, getting back to PyCharm, so I had just written this in the details homepage for y'all to see what happens when I do this. Now, I want to define something else also in my details homepage. So before defining our details HTML page, what I'm going to do is go get back to the admin.py file, and over here, I'll register the details class also at my admin section. So over here, I'll use admin.site.register and the name of my class, which is detail. Okay, so I'll have to import it over here first. So details and then details. Okay. Then I'll save this. I'll get back to my development server. So now I'll get back to my admin section and hit enter. So as you can see over here, previously in the technical courses section, only one option was shown, which was all courses. Now I've specified the details, and now I've added the details class as well. Now when I click on this, you can see that there are 0 details, which means we had not entered anything in the database. To add something to the details page, you can do it in the database or over here directly. So what I'm going to do is add some details to my page. I'll choose the course type to be Python. So over here, I'm just going to describe what the self-paced course actually means. I'll just write self-paced course proceeds based on the learner. For the instructor-led course, I'll just write the course will be taught by an instructor. I've made a spelling mistake here. It's instructor. Okay. Maybe that's a very basic information, but since it's just a test website, I can enter anything of my choice. You can enter anything you want. So I'll just save this. So as you can see over here, I've added some details. The reason why I'm seeing this over here is because I've asked my function to return the self-paced course. So now to change this, I'll get back to my function. So that was in my models file. So I'm going to be making a small change over here. Instead of returning the details of the self-paced course, I want to return the primary key of my courses. So that will be PK, and this has to be within a string. Okay. So I'll save this. Now I'll go from the terminal. So I'll get back to my server. I'll just click on the link. So I'll go to the admin section again. Okay, now I'll click on details. So as you can see, instead of returning the details of the self-paced course, it has returned the primary key of Python, which is 1. Now I'll click on this. And as you can see over here, it has returned that the course is Python, and it has 2 types, which is self-paced and instructor-led. So all this is working on the back end of your project. The front end basically deals with HTML. Python actually works in the back end of your websites. So now coming back to our details page, what I'm going to do over here is print out the course name, the instructor name, as well as link the course name to the course landing page of Edureka. To do that, what I'm going to do is use the if-else statements. The first thing that I'm going to do is write some Python code with an HTML. So over here, it'll be if course.pk is 1, which means if it's Python, then I want to return the course name, and I want to make this an h1 tag, and then I'll create an anchor tag to which I'll link the course landing page of Edureka. So I'll just open up the browser, and I will take the link from here and I'll paste it over here. After this, I'll just close this, and the course name, I'll have to close the anchor tag and close the h1 tag. So there it is. Now what I'm going to do is return the name of the instructor as well. So course.insname. Please be careful with the spellings. Use the same spellings that you've used for each variable. So now we've done for Python, and now we have to do for C++ and Java. I'll just return the name of the instructor in h2 tag so that it's more visible. All this is your choice, guys. You can make it however you want. And now what I'm going to do is use the else if statement. So 2%, close the curly braces, and over here it'll be elif course.pk is 2. What I'm going to do is copy this, paste it over here, and I'll just change the link. I'll take Edureka's course landing page of Java, and I'll just copy this and I'll paste it over here. So now, similarly, you can do for C++ as well. I'm just showing two options. I'm just going to do it for Python and Java. So I'll just copy this again and I'll paste it over here. Then for C++, then for the else statement, I'll just write the course name of C++. I'm not linking this because I've already shown you two examples. So course name and the instructor name. That will be in the h1 tag again, sorry. So h1, course name, and close h1. After that, the course.instructor name. Just copy this one. So now I'll have to end this, and I have to end it in the similar way that I've been writing the else if block. So it'll be end if. Okay, now I'll save this. So I'll get back to my home page, and over here I'll write / primary key of Python, which is 1, and I'll hit enter. So as you can see over here, when I entered the primary key of Python, which was 1, earlier it was just showing the name of the course. Now, as you can see, my course name has been linked to the official website of Edureka. Similarly, if I do for 2 and 3, I'll get the same output. So I hope you've understood this. So you can add on whatever details you want to your page, just like how I've shown you. So now coming back to PyCharm, I want to actually link my courses page to my details page. Now what I'm going to do for that is, actually I've made a mistake over here in the reference. I'll have to remove this. And over here, it'll not be course ID, it'll be x.id. And that is what I'm going to link. Okay, so x.course name. Now I'll just save this. I'll get back to my server. I'll refresh this page and I'll click on Python. So as you can see over here, I've linked my home page to the details page. Now if I click on this, as I've already shown you, it will go to the course landing page of Edureka. So now I'll get back to my development server. Now as you can see, I have my backend being displayed on my front end. So now what I'm going to do is add on some more details to my homepage. If my homepage does not look beautiful, I don't think many people would even like to visit my website. Now basically, beautifying your homepage depends on how you use your HTML and CSS. Now to do that, I'll get back to course.html page, and over here, I'll write some text as h1 tag, and that will be welcome to Edureka. After this, I'll just add on some image. So I'll just add on an Edureka image over here. I have the source link, so I'm just pasting it over here, guys. After this, what I'm going to do is close this image tag, obviously. Now let me save this and get back to my server and see what happens when I refresh the page. I'll refresh this. So there it is, guys. Welcome to Edureka and the Edureka image. So now to add some more details to my homepage, I'll go to the official Bootstrap website and I'm going to copy paste some part of this code. So I'll just copy this. Guys, Bootstrap is very good in helping you create your HTML web pages. So just to beautify my page, what I'm going to do is I'll add this right in the beginning of my code. I'll save this. I'll get back to my website and I'll rerun this. Okay, so I hope you see the changes. Our website before was looking very dull, and now it looks much more beautiful compared to what it was before. Okay, so my website as of now does not have anything such as a menu bar or something. So let's move on and add that. So I already have a piece of code for that. Just copy it and I'll paste it. Okay, this is welcome to Edureka. Okay, sorry for that. So I'll just add it here. Let's save this and I'll rerun my development server. Okay, as you can see over here, a menu bar has been added to my home page. Okay, so all these bits of codes I've taken from Bootstrap website. You also can take it from there, guys. So as you can see over here, my details page looks too plain. So to make it more descriptive, I'll be adding on some images and will create a form for the user to select between self-paced course and the instructor-led course options. To do that, I'll first need to make changes to the models.py file from my project. So I'll get back to my project, and over here, I'll open up the models.py file. So the first thing I'm going to do over here is add a new variable that will specify the date from when the course has been started. I will name it as started from and will use the date and time field of the models class. So to the all courses class, I'll be adding a new variable named as started from, and I'll be using the models.datetime field. Please be careful with the spellings. So that is datetime field, and within this, I'll say started from. So once I've done this, I'll add another custom method to my all courses class that was published recently. Now this is going to describe when my course has been published. Okay, so now I'll just define that class. I'll say was published recently. So I want this class to return when my course has been published. So for that, I'll just write return self.started from, and this can be greater than or equal to timezone.now minus datetime.time delta. So one thing I want you guys to know is that timezone.now function is present within the django.utils module, and the time delta method is present within the datetime module. I'll just specify the number of days to be 1. So if you want more information about the datetime module, you can check out Edureka's videos and blog on the same. Okay, so over here, I'll need to import it. So I'll just import datetime, and from django.utils, I'll have to import time zone. Okay, I've forgotten a space over here. So that will be time zone. Okay, so our all courses class is ready. And now in the details class, I'm going to remove the self-paced and the instructor-led variables, and I'm going to replace it by a single variable that will hold both the values. So I'll just clear this from here. I'll create a new variable. I'll just name it as CT, which will be the course type. And since this is going to hold characters, I'll use the char field method. Okay, so I'll just specify the max length of this to be anything, say 500. So I need another variable which is going to store the option that is selected by the user. So for that, I'll just name it as your choice. And then I'll be using the Boolean field present in the models class over here. So that's Boolean. Okay, yeah, Boolean field. And the default, I'll just set it to be false. Now, instead of returning the primary key, I want to return the course type. So I'll just change this over here. Okay, so now my models are ready. Now, once this is done, I'll have to make these changes using the make migrations and the migrate command. Okay, so I'll just open up the terminal. I'll return the control back to the terminal. And over here, the first thing that I'll have to do is Python manage.py make migrations, followed by the name of the app, which is technical courses. Please be careful with your spellings. Okay, I'll just hit enter after this. Oh, I've just made a spelling mistake. Sorry, guys. Okay, so that's technical courses. So as you can see over here, it's asking me a question if I've renamed the details.il to details.ct. So I'll just say yes. I'll hit enter. So now after this, since I've added a new field named started from, it's asking me to provide one default value or to quit and let me add a default value in the models.py file itself. I'll just choose the first option and I'll hit enter. So now to set the time, I'll just use timezone.now function, which is going to set the current time. So that's timezone.now and I'll hit enter. Okay, so as you can see, my tables are ready again. And this time I've got a new ID, which is 0002. So now I'll have to use Python manage.py migrate and I'll hit enter. I've made a spelling mistake again. That's migrate. So after I'm done with that, I'll have to use Python manage.py SQL migrate, and I'll have to specify the ID, which was 0002, followed by the name of my app, which is technical courses. Once I've done this, I'll hit enter. Sorry guys, I'll have to specify the name of my app before the ID. So that's technical courses, followed by the ID. which is 0002, and then I'll hit enter. Okay, so now my tables are ready. The next thing that I'll have to do is open the Python shell. So for that, I'll just open up my command prompt, and over here, I'll have to get into the directory which holds my project. I'll just copy my project path from here, and I'm going to paste it over here. Then I'll get into my project, which is website. And after this, I'll have to write Python manage.py shell. Okay. So by running the make migrations command, you're telling Django that you've made some changes to your models. And now you'll like the changes to be stored as a migration. So migrations are basically how Django stores changes to your models and thus to your database schema. They're just files on the disk. You can read the migration from your new model if you like. There is a command that will run the migrations for you and manage your database schema automatically, and that is the migrate command. The SQL migrate command takes migrations, names, and returns their SQL. Okay. The table names are automatically generated by combining the name of the app and the lowercase name of the model. So in my case, the names were all courses and details. So correspondingly, in place of capital A, I'll have a small a. And since my details class already has a small d, it will remain the same. Another thing I want you guys to note is that the SQL command doesn't automatically run the migration on your database. It just prints it on the screen so that you can see what SQL Django thinks is required. It is useful for checking what Django is going to do, or if you have a database administrators who require SQL scripts for changes. So for some more information about the migrate command, it basically takes all the migrations that haven't been applied and runs them against your database, essentially synchronizing the changes you made to your models and the schema in the database. Migrations are very powerful, guys, and they let you change your models over time as you develop your project without the need to delete your database or tables and make new ones. It actually specializes in upgrading your database live without losing data. So now coming back towards our database, I'll just show you what's present in my database. So for that, I'll have to use the all function. So I'll just type all courses. So all the objects present in the all courses class will be retrieved. I'll have to first import it. So from technical courses.models, I'll have to import all courses class and the details class. I'll just check if my spellings are correct. So that's details and all courses. Okay. It's not and over here, it's a comma. So after this, I'll just run the command allcourses.objects.all. So as you can see over here, I have 3 objects, which is Python, Java, and C. Now, like I've already shown you all before, in case I want to retrieve just one object which is present in my class, all I have to do is type in the same command, which is allcourses.objects, and instead of the all method, I'll have to use the get method, and I'll just specify the primary key to be 1, and then I'll hit enter. So as you can see, the object whose primary key is 1 is Python. You can also make use of the filter method. To do that, just change the get method to filter and then hit enter. Okay, so as you can see, just like the get method, the filter method has also returned Python when I've specified the primary key as 1. Now, I'll be importing the Django.utils time zone method over here. So from Django.utils, import time zone. Please be careful with the spellings. Okay, sorry for that. I told you guys to be careful and I myself made a mistake over here. So that's Django. Okay. After this, I'll take a new variable named as current year, and I'm going to equate it to the year of the current date. So for that, I'll just write current underscore year equals timezone.now dot year. After this, I'll take the all courses class, and I want to fetch the objects that have been published in this year. So I'll use the get method. I'll use the current year object that I just created, and I'll equate this to started from object that I've created in my class. To this, I'll just specify underscore underscore year because I want to retrieve the year. and then I'll hit enter. I've made a spelling mistake, sorry for that. It's started from. So as you can see over here, it says get has returned more than one objects from the all courses class. Now this is because I had set all the courses starting date from the timezone.now function, which means I had set it to the current time for all 3 courses. So now I'll take a new variable q within which I'm going to store one of the objects present in the all courses. So it will be either Python, Java or C. I'll just specify that through the primary key. So that will be all courses dot objects dot get. I'll use the primary key as 1 itself and then I'll hit enter. Okay, so now if I want to check if this course was published recently, so for that I'll just type q dot was published recently, which is the name of my class which I've defined already. So was published underscore recently, and then I'll hit enter. Okay, so looks like I've encountered an error over here. It says can't compare datetime dot datetime to datetime dot date. Okay, looks like I've made some mistake within my models over here. So let me just check. I've imported the datetime module and I've imported the time zone method as well. So as you can see over here, instead of making use of the date time field, I've made use of the date field. And that is why it is throwing an error over here saying can't compare datetime.datetime to datetime.date. So let me just make that change over here. It's datetime field. I'll have to save this. So since I've made a change over here, I'll run the make migrations command. And after that, I'll have to use the migrate command as well. Okay, so after this, the SQL migrate command, of course. And the ID that is generated this time is 0003. So now my database is ready. And over here, let me just exit this and I'll clear the screen. So now again, I'll use Python manage.py shell and I'll have to import time zone. Sorry for the mistake, guys. I used the command which I used previously and I had made a mistake in the spelling over there. Okay. I'll also have to import the models present in my app. So from technical courses dot models, I'll have to import the classes, which is all courses and details. After this, I'll have to import the datetime module. So import datetime. Okay. Now, just to check my database, I'll just run the command allcourses.objects.all and I'll check what it returns. Okay. So now my database is ready. So getting back to where we stopped earlier. So I had just created a new object Q and I had stored the element having the primary key as 1 into it. So I'll do it again. And after this, I'll use the was published recently method. So looks like we've encountered another error over here. So I'll get back to my models and it shows that there's some problem with this variable over here. So what I'm going to do is just remove this variable for a second and I'll just comment these out. I'll just open up my terminal again and I'll make migrations to this. And then I'll use the migrate command and I'll use SQL migrate again. So what's the ID? Its ID is 0008. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to add on this again so that doesn't show me an error again. And I'll make migrations again. The reason why I'm doing this is previously it was showing that this variable of mine is of none type, but actually we have to equate it to the current time, which is timezone.now function. So just to not encounter the same error again, I deleted that variable or that element from my table and I'm adding it again so that it's created as a new variable. So now I'll add the started from variable again. I'll save this. And as usual, I'll have to make the migrations and I'll have to migrate it again. So the option over here I'm going to choose is 1. Hit enter, use timezone method, timezone.now to be specific, and hit enter. After this, I'll have to migrate. and then use the SQL migrate command. So the ID at this time is 9 and I'll hit enter. Okay, so now my table is ready. So as you can see over here, previously it was just showing me the started from name, and now it's showing me the date and time. So now I'll get back to my command prompt. Okay, so now I'll get back to command prompt. I'll just exit from here and I'll clear the screen. I'll get into my Python shell again. And after this, I'll have to import everything that's required, which is time zone method from django.utils, the models file from technical courses website or application, and then the datetime module. Okay, so now I'll take new variable, say A, and I'll say all courses dot objects dot get, and I'll use the primary key as 1. Now I'll use the was published recently method and see what it returns. Was published recently. So as you can see over here, it says that the object which holds primary key as 1, which is Python, was published recently, and it says this is true. Okay, so I hope everyone's clear till here. So one thing that's very important that we learned over here is while making changes to your models, you will have to make migrations and then migrate it, and then use the SQL migrate command with the ID that is generated by the migrate command. So anytime you make changes, you will have to do all these 3 things. Even if you make some mistake within the models, don't be scared, because each time you make a mistake, you get to learn even more from that. So as we all know, my details class is interlinked to my all courses class, which means my details class is derived from my all courses class. Now this connection is actually made through the primary key and the foreign key relationships. So before making any more changes over here, what I'm going to do is get back to my development server, and over here, I'll go to the admin section. Now I'll get into the all courses that are present on my website. And over here, as you can see, I had 3 courses, which was C, Java, and Python. Now when I click on one of these, you see that previously only the course name and the instructor name was shown. But now it also specifies when my course has been started. So as you can see over here, previously you could see self-paced and instructor-led courses over here. So now what I'm going to do is click on this, and I'll just clear this from here. So I just cleared the details. So now I'll go to my database, I'll exit this, and I'll have to re-enter my shell again. I'll import my classes again. And I'll use the previous commands. Okay, so now I'll just take the object A and I'll say details underscore set dot all. So as you can see over here, I deleted the details that were present from my admin section, and that is reflected over here as well. So what I'm going to do now is set 2 values for my variable, which was CT, that is course type. To do that, I'll use a.details underscore set, and instead of the all function, I'll use the create function. With the help of this create function, I'll be able to assign 1 or more values to the course type field, that is CT. So I'll say CT is equal to self-paced. Okay, so that was my first option, and now I'll hit enter. Okay, so one option I've already created, which is self-paced. Now I have to create another option, which is instructor-led. So for that, I'll use the same command again, and I'll just change from self-paced to instructor-led. And I'll hit enter. Okay, so now I've given 2 options, but when I gave the first option, it returned that the details are self-paced, and when I gave the second option, it has returned that the details contain instructor-led. Now, if you want to see if both these options are stored in the detailed set, all you can do is make use of the count method. So instead of this all method over here, I'll use a.details.count, and I'll hit enter. So as you can see, it has returned that I have 2 details for this object, which is Python, which means Python has 2 objects, which is self-paced and the instructor-led options. So I'll repeat this for another course which is present in my database, say for Java. So I'll take a new variable this time, and instead of A, I'll rename this as B, and the primary key I'll specify as 2. So now let me just retrieve the course name for this primary key, which is 2. So now as you can see, the course name which is present at primary key number 2 is Java. Now I'll set the options for this as well. So I'll use b.details_set.create. And I'll give the same options again, which is CT is equal to self-paced. And another option which I'm going to give is instructor-led. Okay, now I'll hit enter. So now let me give the count option for B as well. So as you can see, I've created two options for Java, which is instructor-led and self-paced courses. Okay, so I hope everyone's understood till here. So now I'm done with the models and I've done with the database. Now I'll have to modify my views and my templates. So to do that, I'll go to my views file, and over here I'll make some modifications with regards to the changes I've made to my models. So over here, I'll be creating a new function named your choice that will hold the user's choice and will save it after the user has selected that particular type of course he intends to enroll for. So over here, I'll be making use of a new function which is present in the Django.shortcuts module, and that is the getObject or 404 method. So for that, I'll just import it over here. So that will be getObject or 404. Since I've not made use of this, it's not been highlighted. So like I've already told y'all, I'm going to create a new function which will be the your choice function. Now this function will actually store the user's choice and it will reflect the same after the user has made his choice between instructor-led and the self-paced options. So now I'll be defining the function. So it's def your choice. And as usual, I'll have to pass the request parameter. And I'll have to specify the course ID. So within this function, I'll make use of the getObject or the 404 method. To do that, I'll just take a new variable, say course, and I'll use get_object.404 method, and I'll specify all courses and the primary keys. Okay, I'll just change this to course, and over here I'll say course_ID. After this, I'll be making use of the try and except block. Now this is in case some course is not present. I want to catch that error using the try and the except block. So I'll just use another variable over here. I'll say selected course type equals details_set dot get, and I'll use the primary key equals request.post method. And within this, I'll just specify this as the choice. So now done with the try block, I'll have to go to the except block. In case there is a key error, I'll use the method key error and all courses dot does not exist. Now I'll make use of the return statement with the render method. Remember guys that the render method is always a shortcut to the HTTP response method. So within this, the request parameter again, and then all courses / details or detail.html, which is the name of my target file. After this, I'll just specify the dictionary, which holds what to return for course and for the error message. And now the error message, error_message. So the error message I want to display is select a valid option in case the user provides some invalid option. So that'll be select valid option. Okay. So in case the user does not make a selection and hits the submit button, it's going to return a message saying select a valid option. So after this, I'll have to use the else block, and then if in case he's made the selection, selected course type dot your choice. When the user has made some selection, I want to set the value of the selected course type to be true. And then I'll just save this using the save method. So selected course type dot save. And then I'll just make use of the return render method again. Now here it's going to return. I want to redirect my views to the templates, which is the detail.html. So for that, so technical courses / details.html. Now the dictionary that specifies my details again. So that's course, and the value is course itself. So one thing I forgot to do over here is import the details class as well. So I'll import that, and one small change within the detail class. I'll just clear this. And over here, I'll just say course equals get object of 404. And over here, it'll be all courses and the primary key, which is equal to the course ID. So I've made use of COUSE and not COURSE. And everywhere I've been using the same spelling. So just be careful, guys. In case you've given some other spelling, then be careful that whenever you're referring to that variable, you give the correct spelling that you've mentioned in your app. So after this, the return statement again. So return render and request, which is the first parameter, and then technical courses / detail.html. And then the dictionary again. So I'll just copy paste it from here. I'll just clear this method, which I've not been using. Okay. And actually, I've not made use of the details class as well, so I'll just remove it. Oh, looks like I've missed something over here, which is the course.details underscore set.get. So here there's another change. I was just cross-checking my file, and I found another change, which is technical courses. So now I'll just save this. Okay, so now everything looks perfect. So once my views are ready, I'll have to go towards the templates. Now, the page which I'm targeting over here is the detail.html page. So I'll just open up the detail.html page. So as you all know previously, I'll just get back to my development server and show you what this page shows. So here it is. The details.html page basically returns the name of the course with the name of the instructor. Now, this looks too plain, so I want to add on something to this. So basically what I'm going to do is add on an image of this course, and then I'll be creating a form for the user to select between the self-paced and the instructor-led options. So now to do that, I'll get back to PyCharm, and over here, I'll just insert some images for my courses. So the first thing I'm going to do is make use of the image tag, and the source I already have it somewhere, so I'll just copy it. So I've just copied the link of a Python logo over here. After this, I'll have to create the list of options present within this course. So to do that, I'll just take an unordered list, and within that, I'll use Python code again. So I hope you all remember how we have to specify Python code within HTML. It is between 2 curly braces and 2 ampersand symbols. So that's for x in all courses dot set dot all. I'll say create a list, and I'll say x.ct. That's course type. And for. Okay, I'll save this and I'll just show you what changes I've done over here. So I'll get back to Python. Okay, so as you can see, previously it was just showing me Python, which is the name of the course and the instructor's name. Now I've added on an image and it shows me the image over here. Now my details.html page is still not complete. So for that, I'll be creating a form. So as you all saw, I made 2 changes. One is adding the image, and the other change was adding a list that contains the self-paced and the instructor-led options. Now you'd be wondering why only one change is being reflected on the development server. Now this is because I've not made changes to the URL. So as you all have seen, I've made 2 changes to my details.html page, but only one was being reflected on the development server. Now this is because I'll have to make changes to the urls.py file as well. Now before doing that, I'll just complete the form that I was going to create on this page. So for that, I'll have to include some more Python code over here. And this time I'll use the if statement. So if error message, then I'll just give a paragraph tag, and I'll give this as strong. And to this, I'll specify the error message which I've previously defined. Now I'll just close the if statement. So that's end if. So now to create a form, I'll be making use of the form tag present in HTML. Many of us would know every form has an action, to which I'm going to specify the yourChoice function present in views. So for this, I'll open the curly braces, and within the ampersand symbol, I'll say URL, and I'll say technical courses. Now the reason why I'm going to use the technical courses name over here is because this is the name of my app, And I'm going to be using this namespace for all the URLs present for this app. I've not made that change as of yet in the urls.py file. So when I'm doing that, you'll understand this in a better manner. So that's your choice. And then I'll specify the course ID. Then I'll just close this. So the method that I'm going to specify over here is post. Method equals post. So I'll just close this over here. So now I'm going to be making use of something very special, which is the CSRF token. So that's CSRF underscore token. So before explaining this to you all in detail, I'll just complete the code and then get back to it. So now I'll be making use of the for loop. So for choice in course dot detail underscore set dot all. So for all the elements present within the detailed set, I want to create an option for the user to select between the self-paced and the instructor-led courses. So here the input type will be radio, and the name is going to be choice. I'll just name it as choice, and ID will be choice, and that is going to be for loop dot counter, and the value will be the choice ID. So now I'll just create a label tag for choice for loop counter again, and I'll close this. So the text that I want to display over here is the choice underscore CT, which is the course type. Choice.ct, which is the course type. Okay, so close the label tag, and I'll create a line break over here. So that's BR. Now, it has to be within the ampersand. Okay, so I'll just save this, and I'll create an input button over here. So that's going to be input. Type will be submit, and the value also is going to be submit. So now I'm done with the detail.html page. But before moving on towards the development server, I'll have to include this within the urls.py file that I've created for the technical courses app. The urls.py file can have a number of URLs for each app that is created. Now, to distinguish between each app, it's better to give a name to that app so that the URL specific to that app are within the name of that app itself. Now, to distinguish between each of them, it's better to give a name to each app so that the URL specific to it will be within the name of that app itself. So I'll just name the app over here. I'll say app underscore name is the name of my app, which is technical courses. So after this is done, I'll have to create another path. So I'll just copy this. And within this, the page that I want to refer will be your choice. And that will be with regards to the primary key that we've already created. Okay, so I'll just copy that. And I'll say your choice, which is the name of my function, and then slash. Okay, so that will be views.yourchoice, and the name will be your choice again. You can give any name of your choice just like before. So now my file is all ready. The first thing that we did was made changes to our models, and then we stored the changes in our database. After making the changes to our models and database, I was supposed to make changes to views, which I've done already, and then to the templates, so that is details.html page. Finally, I've linked the details.html page to the urls.py file present within my app. Okay, so I'll just save everything and I'll rerun my code. I'll just save this and I'll rerun my server. Okay, my development server doesn't seem to be running. Okay, I've made a mistake over here. It's your choice, not Hoist. So I'll just save this. I'll get back to my server and I'll rerun this. So looks like we've encountered some error. So let me just get back to my details page. And over here, I'll just cross-check what I've done. So it's a link error, so I just have to go to the link and check what mistake I've done over here. Okay, so that's URL, technical courses, your choice. Oh, here it is. Instead of typing course.id, I've typed course_id. So I'll just say course.id, save this. I'll get back to my development server and I'll rerun this. Okay, so congratulations guys, our form is ready. So when I select any of these options and I hit on submit, it is going to save that as my option. So whenever I log in next time, it will just show me the option that I've enrolled for, and it will not show me the other option. So before doing that, I'll just explain to y'all what's happening on this detail.html page. So our details.html page has created a radio button for each option, that is self-paced or instructor-led. The value of each radio button is the associated course type ID. The name of each radio button I've given is choice, which means when somebody selects one of the radio buttons and submits the form, it will send a post data saying choice, which is equal to hash, where hash is the ID of the selected choice. Now this is the basic concept of all HTML forms. So we've set the form's action to the URL as technical courses, your choice and choice.id. And the method we've used is post. Using the post method is very important because the act of submitting this form will alter the data on the server side. Whenever you create a form that alters the data on the server side, you'll have to make use of the post method and not the get method. So you all have noticed that I've made use of the for loop.counter method. Now this actually indicates how many times the for tag has gone through its loop. So since we are creating a post form which will have effect on modifying the data in our database, we need to worry about the cross-site request forgeries. Thankfully, you don't have to worry too hard because Django comes with a very easy-to-use system for protecting against it. In short, all post forms that are targeted at internal URLs should use the CSRF token template tag. So over here, CSRF actually stands for cross-site request forgeries. Okay, so I hope everyone's clear till here. So the next thing that we're going to be doing over here is creating tests, which is very important for every website you create. So before moving on to show y'all how to write tests for our website, I'm going to be sharing some important details about testing. So first of all, what are automated tests? Tests are simple routines that check the operation of your code. Testing operates at different levels. Some tests might apply to a tiny detail, while others examine the overall operation of the software. So that is something which is same as what we've done while using our Python shell. So we've used the Python shell to examine the behavior of a method and running the application and entering data to check how it behaves. So what's different in an automated test is that the testing work is done for you by the system. You create a set of tests once, and then as you make changes to your app, you can check that your code still works as originally intended, without having to perform time-consuming manual testing again and again. So why do you need to create tests? You may feel that you've done quite enough on your plate just learning Python and Django, and having yet another thing to learn may seem overwhelming and perhaps unnecessary. After all, as you all have seen, our website is working quite happily now. Going through the trouble of creating automated tests is not going to make it work any better. If creating the technical courses application is the last bit of Django programming you will ever do, then true, you don't need to know how to create automated tests. But if that's not the case, this is the best time to learn testing. Okay, so tests can actually save you time. Up to a certain point, checking that it seems to work will be satisfactory test. In more sophisticated applications, you might have dozens of complex interactions between components. A change in any of these components could have unexpected consequences on the application's behavior. Checking that it still seems to work could mean running your code's functionality with 20 different variations of your test data just to make sure you haven't broken something, which is definitely not a good use of your time. That's especially true when automated tests could do this for you in seconds. If something's gone wrong, tests will also assist you in identifying the code that's causing the unexpected behavior. Sometimes it may seem a chore to tear yourself away from your productive creative programming work to face the unglamorous and unexciting business of writing tests, particularly when you know your code is working properly. However, the task of writing tests is a lot more fulfilling than spending hours of testing your application manually or trying to identify the cause of the newly introduced problems. Hold on. Tests don't just identify the problems, they also prevent them. It's a mistake to think of tests merely as a negative aspect of development. Without tests, the purpose or intended behavior of the application might be rather opaque. Even when it's your own code, you will sometimes find yourself poking around in it trying to find out what exactly it's doing. Tests actually change that. They light up your code from the inside, and when something goes wrong, they focus the light on the part that goes wrong, even if you hadn't even realized it had gone wrong. Tests also make your code more attractive. You might have created a brilliant piece of software, but you will find that many other developers will simply refuse to look at it because it lacks tests. Without tests, they won't trust it. According to Jacob Kaplan-Moss, one of Django's original developers, code without tests is broken by design. Other developers want to see tests in your software before they take it seriously, and that is just another reason for you to write your tests. Last but not the least, tests help teams work together. The previous points are written from the point of view of a single developer maintaining an application. Complex application will be maintained by teams. Tests guarantee that colleagues don't inadvertently break your code. And also, you don't break theirs without knowing. So now moving on, I'll be sharing with y'all a few basic testing strategies. There are many ways to approach writing tests. Some programmers follow a discipline called test-driven development. They actually write their tests before they write their code. This might seem counterintuitive, but in fact, it's similar to what most people will often do anyway. They describe a problem, then create some code to solve it. Test-driven development simply formalizes the problem in a Python test case. More often, a newcomer to testing will create some code and later decide that it should have some tests. Perhaps it would have been better to write some tests earlier, but it's never too late to get started. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out where to get started while writing tests. If you've written several thousand lines of Python code, choosing something to test might not be easy. In such a case, it's fruitful to write your first test the next time you make a change, either when you add a new feature or fix a bug. Okay, so now I'll be moving on to show y'all how to write the first test for your application. So the first thing that we'll have to do is identify the bug that's present in our application. I'm sure many of you wouldn't have noticed, but fortunately there's a little bug in my application. As I've shown y'all earlier, the method that I've created, which was published recently, returns true if the course was published within the last day. But also if the all courses started from field is in the future, it will show true. Now to show this to y'all, I'll just open up the command prompt and I'll open my shell again. So I'll just clear the screen. And now I'll get back to my shell. And over here, I'll import the datetime module. And then from django.utils, I'll import the time zone method. Now after this, I'll have to import the all courses and the details class present in the technical courses app. So from technical courses, .models, import all courses, comma details. I'm not given a space over here. Okay, I've just made a spelling mistake over here. I'll correct it. Technical courses. Okay. So now I'll be creating a new object over here and I'll name it as future course. So I'll just say future underscore course. And the date for the publishing of this course will be 30 days from today. So what I'm going to do is take all courses and I'll take my variable which was started from. And within this, I'll just store timezone.now plus datetime.time delta. And I'll specify that as 30 days. So this means that the future course will start after 30 days from the current date. So for this, I'll use the was published recently method and see what it returns. So I'll say future course. Future underscore course is the name of my variable. Dot was underscore published underscore recently. And now I'll hit enter. So as you can see over here, the course is intended to be published after 30 days. But when I use the was published recently method, it's returning true, which is actually wrong. Now I actually want to create a test that will expose the bug. What we've just done in the shell is to test the problem, and it's exactly what we can do in the automated test as well. So let's turn this into an automated test. A conventional place for an applications test is in the applications test.py file. The testing system will automatically find tests in any file whose name begins with test. Okay, so to create a test, I'll open this test.py file. And as you can see over here, it has already imported the test case method for us from Django.test class. So one more thing I want to import over here is the datetime module. So I'll say import datetime. And also, I want to import the time zone method present in Django.utils. So from Django.utils, import time zone. After this, I'll also have to import the models that are present within this app. So for that, I'll use from.models, import all courses. So over here, I'll create a new class. So class, and I'll just give some random name to this. So I'll say all courses model test. You can give any name of your choice, guys. Okay, so I'll have to use the test case method over here. So that's test case. Within this, I'll define a function that is going to return false for the courses whose publishing date is in future. So to do that, I'll just take a new variable, say time, equals time zone dot now, and I'll add this to datetime dot time delta of 30 days. Sorry guys. Without specifying the function itself, I've started writing the code. Define. I'll just give the name as test underscore was published recently, which means it's the test for was published recently method with future course. And I'll just hit tab over here. Okay. So now I'll take another variable, which will be future question. And this will be equal to all courses and started from. Started from will be equal to the current time plus 30 days. Now I'll use the self parameter, and I'll use the assert is function, and I'll use future question dot was published recently, and I'll set this to false. So here we've actually created a Django.test.testCase subclass with a method that creates an all courses instance with a started from in the future. I'm then going to check the output of was published recently, which ought to be false. Okay, so I'll just save this. I'll open up the terminal. I'll return the control back to my terminal by hitting Ctrl+C. And over here, I'll type in the command python manage.py test followed by the name of my application, which is technical courses. So what exactly happened over here is this. The manage.py test command actually looked for the all courses application. After that, it found a subclass of the Django.test.testCase class. It then created a special database for the purpose of testing, then looked for the test methods, the ones whose name begin with a test. In the function test was published recently with future course, it created an all courses instance whose start date is 30 days in the future. And then, using the assert is method, it discovered that the was published recently returns true, though we wanted it to return false. The test informs us which test failed and even the line on which the failure occurred. So as you can see over here, I have a message saying the test has been failed. So the next thing is to fix the bug. We already know that the problem is in all courses was published recently method, and that should actually return false if the publishing date of that course is in the future. So now what I'm going to do is get back to my models.py file, and over here I'll have to make changes to the was published recently method. What I'm going to do is add in a new variable, say now, and I'll equate this to timezone.now. After this, I'll just change this return statement. So I'll just return now minus the date time dot time delta of 1 day. And then I'll compare this with the published date. So now that I've made the required changes, I'll just save this and rerun the test again. So it's python manage.py test technical courses. So as you can see over here, unlike the previous result, I've got an OK, which means I've actually fixed the bug. So basically what I've done over here is identified the bug, and I wrote a code that exposes it and corrected the bug in the code, so my test passes. Generally, many other things might go wrong with our application in the future, but we can make sure that we don't inadvertently reintroduce this bug, because simply running this test will warn us immediately. So that was just writing a basic test. I think I'd prefer to write some more tests for my application. So while I'm here, I'm going to further pin down the was published recently method, because it's going to be very embarrassing if in fixing one bug, I would have introduced another. So I'm going to add two more test methods to the same class to test the behavior of the method more comprehensively. So I'll just open up the test.py file. I'll define two more functions over here. So this will be test was published recently with old course. So this method basically returns false for the courses whose published date is older than 1 day. So I'll just take a new variable over here. I'll say test, and I'll say that this is timezone.now minus datetime.time delta. To know more about time delta, you can actually refer to the video and the blog on Edureka's channel for the datetime module. And within this, I'll specify 1 day and 1 second. I'll create a new variable, say old course, and then I'll use the all courses class, and I'll use started from variable, and I'll equate this to time. Okay, I'm sorry, I actually intended to name this time, not test. Now finally, I'll be using the assert is function, and old course dot was published recently, and I'll set this to false. Now I'll be defining another function. I'll just copy this, and I'll change it from old to recent. I'll just copy everything from here, and I'll paste it over here. I'll make the required changes. So over here, it's going to be hours, and that'll be 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds, which means it's less than 1 day. And the value over here is going to be true, not false. So basically, what's going to happen over here is, if the course has been published within a day, it will return true. And if it's older, then it will return false. And if it's in the future also, it's going to return false. Okay, so I hope everyone's understood this. So basically, we have created 3 tests for all courses .was published recently method. And this will definitely return sensible values for past, recent, and future courses. You can also create a test for a view. The technical courses application is fairly undiscriminating. It will publish any course, including the ones whose published field is in future. We should actually improve this. Setting the started from variable in the future should mean that the course is published at the moment but invisible until then. So to create a test for a view, when we fixed the bug earlier, we wrote the test first and then the code to fix it. In fact, that was a simple example of test-driven development, but it doesn't really matter in which order you do the work. In our first test, we focused closely on the internal behavior of the code. For this test, we want to check its behavior as it would be experienced by a user through a web browser. Before we try to fix anything, let's have a look at the tools at our disposal. The Django test client. Django provides a test client to simulate a user interacting with the code at the view level. We can use this in the tests.py or even in the shell. So first, I'm going to start with the shell again. Here, I actually need to do a couple of things that won't be necessary in the tests.py file. So for that, I'll just open up the command prompt. And over here, I'll say from django.tests.utils import setup test environment. So now I'll call the setup test environment method and I'll hit enter. The setup test environment method installs a template renderer which will allow us to examine some additional attributes on responses such as response.context that otherwise wouldn't be available. Please make a note that this method does not set up a test database. So next, I'll need to import the test client class from the Django.test module. So from Django.test import client. Now I'll create a variable named client and I'll say this is equal to the client method. Okay, so with this, we can ask our client to do some work for us. I'll take a new variable, say response, and I'll say this is equal to client.get. And I'll just check the response.status code. So as you can see over here, it has returned 200 as the status code for this website. Now this actually means that our website is responding well. Now in case I want to retrieve the content on this website, I'll just use response.content and I'll hit enter. So as you can see over here, it has returned all the content that's present on my website. Okay. So till now, we've actually been working mostly on the backend of our project. But if you're thinking that Django only helps you develop the backend and not the front end, wait, Django allows you to make your websites beautiful as well. Now to do that, you will need to learn some of the HTML basics, which I'll be teaching you all now. I know many of y'all would be aware of it, but for those who don't know, I'm going to help you all out by brushing the basics of HTML. To begin with, let's first describe what exactly is HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. A markup language is a computer language that is used to apply layout and formatting conventions to the text document. Markup languages makes the text more interactive and dynamic. So basically, text can be converted into images, tables, links, etc. HTML is the standard markup language for creating web pages and web applications. It's used to describe the structure of web pages using markup. The HTML structure. HTML tags have two main types, that's block level and the inline tags. Block level elements take up the full available space and always start a new line in the document. For example, the tags including the headings and the paragraphs. Inline elements only take up as much space as they need and do not start in a new line on the page. They usually serve to format the inner contents of block level elements. Some of the examples of inline tags are links and emphasized strings. The three block level tags that you will need for an HTML document are the HTML tag, the head tag, and the body tag. The HTML tag is the highest level element tag that encloses every HTML page. The head tag holds meta information such as the page title and the char set. Finally, the body tag encloses all the content that appears on the page. So how exactly does HTML work? HTML documents end with a .html or .htm extension. You can view it using the web browser. The browser reads the HTML file and renders the content for the users to view it. Each HTML page consists of a set of tags or elements which are known as the building blocks of web pages. They create a hierarchy that structures the content into sections, paragraphs, headings, and other content blocks. So now talking about the HTML headings. HTML headings are defined within the H1 to H6 tags. H1 defines the most important headings, whereas H6 defines the least important ones. Paragraphs in HTML are defined using the paragraph tag or the P tag. There is no limit to the number of paragraph tags you can add to your content. Links. HTML links are hyperlinks. You can click on a link and redirect to another document or a web page. To create a link, you'll have to make use of the anchor tag or the A tag. Okay, so images. Images are required to beautify and depict complex concepts in simple ways on your web page. HTML images are defined with the IMG tags. The source file, alternative text, width, and height are provided as attributes to the image tag. The button element is used for creating an HTML button. All the text between the opening and the closing tags appears as a text on the button. It defines a clickable button. Inside a button element, you can add text or images. Lists. HTML provides three ways to specify lists of information. All lists must contain one or more list element. So basically, you can have unordered lists, ordered lists, or a definition list which arranges your items in the same way as they are arranged in a dictionary. You can also create tables in HTML using the table tag. Rows in HTML are defined within the TR tag, headers are defined within the TH tag, and the cells are defined within the TD tags. So now just to show you all one example of this, I'll create a new project over here. I don't want to mess with the current project, so I'll just create a new project, say HTML. Okay, and over here, I'm going to show you all some basics of HTML. I'll create a new file over here. That'll be an HTML file. I'll just name it as sample. So as you can see over here, my IDE has already provided the basic HTML tags for me. I'll just clear this off from here, and I'll use some already written HTML code. So as you can see over here, I basically have a title which says what is HTML. After that, I've just specified the background color to be black and the font color to be white. I've written some text over here saying welcome to Edureka and learn about HTML. I've center aligned an image using the center tag and the image tag with source, alt, and the style of it. After that, I've created an unordered list which contains a few courses that are available at Edureka. Finally, I've created a button, but I've not linked this to anything. So now let me just show you all how this runs on the browser. Okay, so here it is. I have a black background, I have a white font color, I have an image, and I also have created a button which I've not linked to anything. So now let's get back to our project. So over here, to design my courses.html page, I've already created some HTML. I'll just copy paste that code over here, and I'll save this, and I'll rerun my development server. Okay, I've forgotten to run my project. So I'll use python manage.py, run server. Okay, so now my server is ready to run. I'll reload this page. So here is the web page that I've created. I've created a nav bar, and over here I have a few options, and when I click on these options, it leads me to that particular page on the Edureka website. Okay, so when I click on Edureka, I go to the official edureka.co website. When I click on blogs and videos, it will lead me to that particular website of Edureka. In case you want your links to open in a new page, you can specify the target element as _blank. Now when you do this, what happens is when you click on the link, it will open on the new page. Okay, so there when I clicked on community, it has gone to the Edureka community website. So as you can see over here, I have all my options, that is Python, Java, and C. And I also have some description regarding the self-paced and the instructor-led courses. I've also added on some images to my website. And at the end, I've specified a footer with some text regarding my website. So I hope you guys have liked the sample website that I've created. However, there are enormous more options that I leave you guys to explore. Before moving on towards the do's and don'ts of Django, I'd like to take a quick recap of what we've done till now. So at the first place, we've seen how to install Python, PyCharm, and Django. After that, we created a Django project using the Django admin. Following that, we've seen the various files that Django created for us along with the project, namely the manage.py, settings.py, init.py, wsgi.py, and the urls.py files. And then, using the manage.py file, we've got a development server running. The next step was creating our first app using Python manage.py start app command. After that, we've seen how to create our models, views, and templates. I've also shown you guys how to connect the project to database using migrate and the make migrations commands. Also, our project has an admin section that has the ability to make changes as and how the admin decides to do it. We've also created a few tests for our website in order to keep it free from bugs. Finally, we've seen how to beautify our website using HTML. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this demo. Something very important for you guys is the do's and don'ts of Django. So coming towards the do's and don'ts while writing templates, views, and models. So while writing the Django template code, put one and only one space between the curly brackets and the tag contents. So as you can see on the screen, when you're writing something between the curly braces, keep in mind not to insert extra spaces and also avoid not giving any space at all. So while writing the Django views, the first parameter in a view function is called as request. So when you're writing this parameter, specify it as the complete name, which is REQUEST and not REQ or any other short forms. The models. While writing your models, make sure that the field names are in lowercase. And it's better to use underscores instead of camel case. The order of models' inner classes and the standard methods should be as follows. The first should be all database fields, followed by the custom manager attributes. Then is the class meta, followed by the string method, safe method, get absolute URL, and any other custom methods that are left over. So those were a few do's and don'ts of Django. So moving on towards the most frequently asked questions about Django. The first one is, according to Django, the most frequently asked question is, why does this project exist? Django actually grew from a very practical need. World Online, a newspaper web operation, is responsible for building intensive web applications on journalism deadlines. In the fast-paced newsroom, World Online often has only a matter of hours to take complicated web application from concept to public launch. At the same time, the World Online web developers have consistently been perfectionists when it comes to following best practices of web development. The World Online developers ditched PHP and began using Python to develop its website. As they built intuitive, richly interactive sites such as Lawrence.com, they began to extract a generic web development framework that let them build web applications more and more quickly. They tweaked this framework constantly, adding improvements over 2 years. In summer 2005, World Online decided to open source the resulting software, which is Django. Django would not be possible without a whole host of open source projects, that is Apache, Python, and the PostgreSQL. Okay, so next among the list is, what does Django mean and how do you pronounce it? Django is named after Django Reinhardt, who's actually a jazz guitarist from the 1930s to early 1950s. To this day, he's considered one of the best guitarists of all time. Django is pronounced as Jang-O. Make sure to keep the D as silent. Another very common question is that if Django is stable. Yes, it's quite stable. Companies like Disqus, Instagram, Pinterest, and Mozilla have been using Django for many years. Sites built on Django have weathered traffic spikes of over 50,000 hits per second. Okay, so now moving on. Many people also ask if Django can scale. Yes, compared to the development time, hardware is cheap, and so Django is designed to take advantage of as much hardware as you can throw on it. Django uses a shared nothing architecture, which means you can add hardware at any level, that is database servers, caching servers, or web applications or servers. The framework cleanly separates components such as the database layer and the application layer, and it ships with a simple yet powerful cache framework. So now to answer the question, if Django is a content management system. No, Django is not a content management system or any sort of trunky product. It's a web framework. It's a programming tool that lets you build websites. For example, it does not make much sense to compare Django with something like Drupal. Now this is because Django is something that you use to create things like Drupal. Of course, Django's automatic admin site is fantastic and time-saving, but the admin site is one module of Django, the framework. So what Python version can you use with Django? Django can be used with any of the Python versions starting from 2.7 till 3.7. Python 3 is actually recommended. Now this is because Django 1.1 is the last version to support Python 2.7. Since newer versions of Python are often faster, have more features, and are better supported, the latest version of Python 3 is recommended. So one of the very important and the most frequently asked question is how to make changes to models and to update the database. Like I've already told you all before, when you make changes to the models.py file, you'll have to run the make migrations command, which is nothing but Python manage.py make migrations. Now this will create the migration for those changes. After that, you'll have to run the migrate command, which is nothing but Python manage.py migrate to apply the changes to the database. The reason that there are separate commands to make and apply migrations is because you'll commit migrations to your version control system and ship them with your app. They not only make your development easier, they are also usable by other developers in the production. So can Django support NoSQL databases? NoSQL databases are not officially supported by Django itself. There are, however, a number of side projects and forks which allow NoSQL functionality in Django, like Django non-rel. So how can you customize the functionality of an admin interface? You've got several options. If you want to piggyback on top of the add or change form that Django automatically generates, you can attach arbitrary JavaScript modules to the page via models class admin JS parameter. That parameter is a list of URLs as strings pointing to JavaScript modules that will be included within the admin from via a script tag. If you want more flexibility than simply tweaking the auto-generated forms, feel free to write custom views for the admin. The admin is powered by Django itself, and you can create custom views to hook into the authentication system, check permissions, and do whatever you want.
Today's session is mainly a practical session. But before we begin the practical aspect, there is some amount of theoretical knowledge that you need to have. So we begin the session by first understanding what is an API and how an API fits into Django. After that, we'll have a brief introduction to REST framework and what exactly is REST API and how does it work. Then we'll move on to a demo part where we'll be building a RESTful web API from the scratch. So let's begin the session and discuss the very first topic, that is what is an API. So an API refers to application programming interface. Now let me break it down into simple words. So the very first is application. Now you must be aware of an application if you're using a smartphone. Say the games that you play in your phone or the social networking apps that you scroll around or any other software that you use in your day-to-day life. So all these comes under your application. Next is your programming. So programming is basically a set of instructions that you tell a computer to perform a specific task. Now using that program, you can build a software which makes the life much easier. So that is what programming is. Last is your interface. Now an interface is a point where two applications, or you can say programs, meet and they interact with each other. Now it basically allows to communicate with one another. And hence API is a way for programmers to communicate with various applications. Now if you go by the Google definition, it is set of different subroutines, different protocols, as well as different tools that you need to build an application software. So these are the terminologies that a developer must be knowing. Now if you look at the image to the right, you can see how different environments that are running in application are communicating with each other through the API. Now for running these API, all you need is an environment that supports the application and the API which is a part of an application. So with this, I guess you've got a simple understanding of what is an API. Now if you have any doubts, any query related to any of the concept that I'll be teaching, you can feel free to comment below and I'll be happy to help you with the same. Now let us move on to our next topic, that is an introduction to REST framework. So REST basically describes an architecture which stands for representational state transfer. It is used for the purpose of web APIs for data communication. It also supports some of the common HTTP methods to make interaction between the machines, or you can say applications. Now some of the HTTP methods that are commonly used in REST architecture are get, put, post and delete. So the very first method is get. Now get is basically used to return the records, or you can see the data that you feed in. So basically get is used to retrieve a resource. Next is your put. So put is used to change the state, or you can say update a resource, which can be a file, it can be an object or any block. Thirdly is post. Post is usually used to create the resource. And last is delete, which is used to delete or remove that resource. So this was all about REST framework. Now let us see what exactly is a REST API. Now any web service that uses a REST architecture, they are called as RESTful APIs, or you can say REST APIs. So you must have heard about Facebook APIs or Google APIs or maybe Twitter APIs. So all of them are a REST API. Similarly, if you take it on yourself, say for example, you own a website. You have all your code, you have your database connection and everything is working fine over there. Now suddenly you have more users coming to your website and then you decided to build an iPhone app or maybe an Android app. So now your next thought would be how to connect the database online. And now let's say some more requests come in and you want to make a software desktop application. So again the same question arises, that how an iPhone connects or how an Android connects your database online. It needs a website data from there and update the same over here. So isn't this looks confusing and extremely complicated? So what you can do here, you can create a RESTful API which will serve all your purpose in one go. Now, making a RESTful API, you need to have a device access to website data through a common format. So here we'll be using JSON. Now, JSON is a data format and it is not at all specific to any of the device. So basically use JSON to communicate within a specific format so that we can build an Android app, an iOS app, or any other software that you want to make. Now, one more key feature that comes into picture is that if you have an API that performs certain operations, then you don't have to rewrite that as part of your code, and thereby it also reduces the size of the code. Now, I guess enough of theoretical part, so let's just directly jump into the demo where I'll be helping you to create your first RESTful API from scratch. So for that, you need to first install the REST framework. So everything can be installed using Python Package Manager. Now if you're using command line, it is very easy to install as you just have to type in pip install Django REST framework. Or if you're using PyCharm, you can directly install it by going to your settings, and it's the same way you do it for other packages. Now once your installation is done, you need to add this framework in your installed application. So let me go back to my project and explain you how practically it is done. So first of all, let us create a project. So I am in my C drive users Ayushi and MyCharm projects. So here I create a new folder by calling it by Django REST framework, and inside this we'll be creating a project. So let me go to my command prompt and I'll give this location. Now once we're under this, let's just first create a project. So for creating a project, you have to type in Django admin start project followed by the name of the project. So in my case, the name of the project would be my project. Now as you can see here, I have my project. So once you click on it, it has one more file which is named as my project only and one managed file. So if you go and click on my project, it has some more files, say init, settings, URLs and WSGI. So if you have any confusion or if you want any explanation related to these files, you can go to my previous recording and get your concepts clear. Next, what we have to do, we have to create an application. So for that, let's go to my PyCharm and open this project. So this is my community version of PyCharm. So let me open it. It's in my C, users, PyCharm projects, Django REST framework and my project. Here it is. So this is my PyCharm. Now you can do the exact same things over here as well. Now for that you can go to the view, tool windows and you can open up the terminal like this. You first have to install your Django REST framework. So for that you have to type in pip install Django REST framework and you can click on enter. For now I've already installed my Django REST framework, so it says that requirement is already satisfied. That is like fine. So I'll just clear my screen. So now I'll be creating a simple application, say a web app. Now what I'll be doing in that application is I'll be storing some employees information. Say for example your first name, last name, salary and all that other stuff. So for that you first need to type in pythonmanage.py start app and the name of your application. Let's say it's web app. You can do the same in your command prompt as well, but I feel PyCharm is more convenient for me. So if you go on my project, you see the web app is initialized over here. Now inside this, it has different files. It has init, it has admin panel, it has application, it has models and many more. Now if you remember, I have already explained you in the presentation that first you need to go to your project settings and configure everything. So I'll go to my project, this is my settings, and inside this I have to go to my installed applications and have to write it REST framework. Next I also have to write in the name of the application that I've just created. So once my project setting is configured, what I'll do next, I'll go to my application and I'll go to my models. So here I'll be creating a model, or you can say database, where you'll feed in all the necessary details of the employee. So here I'll create my first model. I don't need this. So I'll create a class over here, class employees models dot. So here let me fill in some details for the employee class. Let's say your first name of the employee or the last name or some employee ID to it. So let me feed in some details to it. But I'll mention the max length to say 10 Next is my last name attribute. Again, the max length should be 10. And let's say one more field I want to feed in, say employee ID. This should be an integer field. Next, what we'll have a string representation of this. So here what I'll be doing, I'll be creating a method that returns all your fields. And it returns, say self.firstname. Next, what can I do? I can go to my admin.py file. Now here I can add and delete employees from the admin panel. So for that, we need to first import the model that you've just created. So here my admin is imported. So here I have imported my model, which is named as employees. Next, we have to register this model. For that, we need to write admin.site register and your name of your model, that is my employees. So once your admin panel is created, you need to first create a super user. So you can again go to your terminal and you can create a super user for that. So here is my terminal. I can directly write python manage.py, create super user. Oops, now here it shows some error. Oh, because I have not migrated my table. So first we need to migrate a table. So for that we need to type in python manage.py and make migrations. So this will basically update your table structure. So once your migrations are done, you just need to migrate it. So you have to write migrate. So it basically creates your table with the current structure and it feeds in all the details that you have written in your model, that is your employee class. So here your project has been migrated. Now let me create a super user. So now it asks me for a username. So let me type in Ayushi. Email address, you can leave it blank as well. And I have to give in some password. Make sure you have a strong password for this. So now my super user is created successfully. So now I can run my server. For running my server, the command is python manage.py run server. Now it is successfully started. So I'll open my Google and I write it over here, localhost. So here as you can see, there is no web page that can be displayed over here, but we do have a sweet admin page. So let me open the admin page for you. So it'll ask me for the username and password that I've just created. So my username is Ayushi and I have some password. So as you can see here, I have that web app that I've already created. Inside that, I have created a model which says employees. Now once we go into that, you'll have an option to add an employee. So now let me add some details to these employees. So the very first name is, say, Swati, last name, and let's say the employee ID is 1. Now let me add some more to this. So let me be big, say 2, and I'll add one more, say Abhilash. Say the employee ID is 4, and I'll add one more, that is Samir. Employee ID is 5. Now here as you can see, there is a list of employees that I've just added. Now once you click on them, you'll see all the necessary information regarding it. The first name, the last name and the employee ID that we have assigned to it. And you can directly delete it from here as well. Now while going back to it, you'll see again the list of the employees. Now let me go back to my code and see what else we have to do. Now let us create a serializer class. Now this class is used to convert your model to your JSON data. So JSON, as I've already told you, JSON is a format and it is not at all specific to any application. Now JSON is used because whenever a user requests a website, we usually send them back a regular old HTML format or HTML response. Now however, we don't want HTML, it's only when you want information from the browser. So here we'll be sending them JSON. For that we need a way to convert this model to JSON. So hence a serializer is used. So I'll go to my application and I'll create a new Python file and name it as serializers. So you can see this file right here in the web application. So inside this we need to import some stuff from REST framework. So first I'll import those things. From REST framework, import serializers. Next I have to import my model, that is employees. So here now let's create a class. So class employee followed by a serializer. serializers. So here this is my model name, which is my employees, followed by a serializer. So whatever model you want to serialize, just say the name of the class followed by a serializer keyword. Next, this serializers.model serializer is your inbuilt thing. You don't have to worry about this because you just have your model as a blueprint which the serializer needs to convert to a JSON format. So next what we have to do, we have to create a class meta and further configure it. So I'll create a class that is meta and I fill in the various fields that I've used in an employee model. I'll create a class meta and here I'll write model. The name of my model is employees. Next I have to configure my fields. So if I open my models and here I have first name, last name and employee ID. So let's say I just need first name as a response. So here what I'll do, I'll here write fields equal to your first name and say if you need one more field, let's say last name. You need first name, you need last name, but you don't need employee ID. So you can manually write that you need to display only first name and last name. Or if not this, you can do one more thing to display all your fields, that is fields equal to underscore underscore all and double underscore again. So this will basically return all your fields present in your employee model. So now it will display your first name, last name and employee name. So I have done this because I don't have much fields to return. That's why I have returned all. Next, let us go to the views.py file and see what we need to display when we hit the API. So this is my views.py file. So in this file, what we have to do, we have to just request an API and get the JSON back. For that, first of all, you need some imports. So I've already copied them. So let me just paste it over here. This saves my time. Now don't worry, I'll explain each one of them. So the very first is by default. Next is your HTTP response, which you have been using for any program to return the response. Next is your get object or 404. Now if we get 404 when the object doesn't exist, say for example you request some random name, let's say Amit, and this doesn't exist in the company's database. So what will happen? It will return a 404. So for example, I show you practically. So as you can see here, I have these many employees over here and say I have requested some different name, let's say Amit, and this doesn't exist in my company's database. Therefore, it will return a 404. Now coming back to my code, next is your API view. Now API view is used so that the normal views can return an API data. Next is your response. So this is where you get back the status or a particular response. Now if everything went fine, it will return a 200 response, or you can say 200 response. Similarly, the 404 that we have just discussed, it says that you have requested something but it doesn't exist anymore. So these are some of the HTTP responses. Then there are many more like that. Say 401 is not found, 500 is your server error and things like that. Next is your status, which will basically send back the status. After that, we have the name of the model, that is my employees, and then the name of the serializer, that is employee serializer. Next, what we have to do, we have to create a class-based view, which basically inherits from an API view. So let me create a class for it. Say class employee list, and this inherits from an API view. So here we will create two methods, get method and a post method. So the very first method, that is your get method, it is used to return all the employees in our model. And then the second method, which is your post method, it helps you to create a new employee. So let me create these methods one by one. And my next method, that is my post. So now what I'll do, I'll go in my first method. I'll just remove this pass, which basically means do nothing. And here I will pass in the request. Now I'll create a variable which stores all my objects. So let me name it as employees, or you can say employees1. I'll have my model and it'll say objects and all. Next we have to serialize them, which means that it will take all your objects and convert them into JSON. So I'll take the serializer for that. I'll take serializer. So this is the name of my serializer, and here I will pass in the employee, which means all your objects, and my second parameter would be many is equals to true. So this second parameter that you can see here, it means that there are many of them. So here you don't have to return just one JSON object. Next we know every view function returns some HTTP response. So in our case it's JSON. So what we have to do, we have to return a JSON. Serialize.data. So So this is serializer. Next is your post function, which says submitting all your data, whereas your get function is reading or taking your data. Now with this, we have completed our views file. Now what we have to do, we have to connect or link it. So for that, we have to go to URLs file. So here we will go to our main project, that is my project, and we'll go to urls.py file. So here you have to add some imports which are compatible with APIs and REST framework. So I'll add here from REST framework. So this I'll be explaining it later as we go on and have more functions to play with. So in my code, you will not be requiring this as such, but the other thing you require is to import your view. So for importing your view, you have to type in from web app import views. Now as you can see here, it is only linking to my admin panel. But now we have to create our own URL to display the view. For that, I'll just copy the same line and I'll paste it over here. So you must be knowing that these are in the form of regular expression. So in spite of admin, I can type in employees so that whenever I hit on employees, it will return my view. So just to make it easy, I have to type in views.employee list that we have just created. So by hitting on employees, it will connect to my view, and in my view, there is a class called as employee list. So I'll go to my views, and here I'll see I have my list, that is employee list, and it will return these things as a view. Therefore, going on employees, it will go to my views, and then it will return the class, that is employee list, as view. So in this way, we'll get the data in a JSON format. So with this, our code is completed. Now what you have to do, you just have to throw this URL and connect to any website's database. And from that, you can get all the information from any device in the world, be it iPhone, be it Android or anything. So now let me go back to my server and see whether this API is working or not. So this is my local host. Here I have to write employees, which is my URL that I've just created. Okay, so this is showing me an error that name true is not defined. So let me go back to my code and see in my views file. Now this will work. So I'll again go to my local host and I'll refresh it. So yes, it displayed. So as you can see here, I have all my employee information. I have their IDs, their first name and their last name. So this is the format of JSON, which are basically surrounded by curly braces having all your data and a descriptive title to it. Now using this URL, you can check it anywhere and retrieve the same information. You can get it using any device in the world, be it your iPhone, Android or anything. So I'll just copy this URL, I'll go to the browser and I'll open my Postman. So here I'll just paste my URL. So as you can see here, we have different types of requests. We have get, we have post, put, patch, delete, and many more. So here I'm gonna simply make a get request. So I've already pasted my API and just I have to send it. So yes, this data is being displaying. So as you can see here, I have my data in JSON format, which means that my API is working perfectly fine. Let us move forward with the project. So here I have just created a dummy website which displays all your courses, the description along with the date and time backed up with the database. So in this I have used few of the components that we have discussed and some of the advanced stuff. So let me just showcase the project for you. So let me open my project. So it's in my D, Ayushi and Django project, Django tutorial. Open current window. So now let me just run this server and let's see what exactly displays. Oops, I guess I have not imported with the manage.py file. So let me do it again. So inside Django tutorial demo, I have the manage.py file. So again, I have to run my server. So my server is now running. So let me just open it and I'll just go to localhost. So this is how my website looks like. Now here I have some static files and some text displayed. So here is my Python Django tutorial, which is the header of the website. And here in the left hand side, I have the Edureka logo. Just below that, I have a navigation bar which contains three tabs, that is Home tab, Courses tab and Contacts tab. After that, in the same div container, I have placed four static files which says Edureka has live classes, it has expert instruction, it has 24/7 support and flexible scheduling. And towards the end, in the footer, I have given contact. You can contact the Edureka at support.edureka.co. Then we have Facebook. The Facebook page of Edureka opens up. Next, we have YouTube. So here I have given the link which opens up the Edureka channel. So this is how my website looks like. Now if I go to home, it will just say, hey, welcome to Edureka. But if I go to courses, so Edureka provide a lot of courses. So here I've put a slider which changes automatically with the number of objects that it has. So right now I just have Django and Python. So if we click on Python, the detailed description will be displayed. So Python and the course description is below. And when it was published, it's all written. It's the date and time has been mentioned. Similarly, if I go to courses again, same is case with Django. So Django, it displays the description and the date and time with respect to it. Last, we have contact. So in contact, I have just displayed the view which says contact in support at edureka.co, which basically gives 24/7 support. So this is how my website looks like. Now in the courses tab, I just have two objects. So let me go to admin page and let's add few more courses. So I've already created a username for this project. So the username is Ayushi and the password I'm specifying. So this is my administration panel that we have just displayed. Now one more thing that you must be noticing over here is the courses. Now here you have, now just let me pull it to here. So inside courses, I have a model which is post. So once we click on this, it has post. Now here it displays just two objects. Now here I can add unlimited courses. Now let's say I have to upload a new course which has a name, let's say RPA. And in description, I'll just write this is a new course. So then you can just provide the date. You can select today and you can select the time as now. And then you just simply have to save it. So now as you can see, the post has been added. Now once you go back to your website, here you will see the course will be added. So I'll just refresh this page. So here as you can see, RPA has been added. Now if I click on that, it will display me the description, the date and time. So this is how my website works. So now let me just walk you through the code of it. So for that, I'll just come out of my server. So this is my project structure. Now the main application that I have is demo. So I'll go to my project demo and I'll see the settings, or you can say the URLs where the user has been hitting. So there are three URLs. The first is the admin, which is by default. Secondly, I have created my.urls, and then I have created a separate application which is courses, and I've given a separate URL that is courses.url. So these are the two applications that I've created, and I've given a separate URL to it. So now let me go to my first application, that is my. So I'll go to my application, I'll go to urls.py. So here I've defined my URL patterns. Now we know that URL patterns are in the form of regular expressions. So this is my home page where we have a view, where we have an index method which must be placed in view, and we have given a namespace to it. Second, we have contact, where again I have created a contact method and given a namespace to it. So let me just view these two methods in the views.py file. So here these two methods are defined. So the very first method is index. So here we have again not returned the HTTP response. So here what we have done, we have simply returned the templates. So what I've done, I have created a template which is home.html, and there I have passed dictionary which has a key post, and then it has post 1 and post 2. Similarly in contacts, I have created one more HTML, that is basic.html, and there I have just passed a dictionary which has a key as content. So this is my dictionary, and then I have passed the content to it which says contact support.edureka.co. So these are my two templates which says home.html and basic.html. So let me just go to my template folders and let's see what exactly is there in home and basic. So as you can see here, it first extends header.html, and then it will just display this text, that is, hey, welcome to Edureka. So this is present in the Jinja logic. Now if I go to header.html, which it has extracted, so let me just go to header.html, and here your all HTML is present. So this is my header part where I've just displayed welcome to Edureka, and then I have loaded some static files which are the images. Now inside that I've also used some bootstrap which has a link of this. So if you come down, you have a body class which has a div container. So if you guys are familiar with HTML, so you will really catch up this soon. So inside this, so I've placed my static file and the text accordingly. So here I have given the source of the image. I've created one more folder that is static, And inside static, I have my application, and then I have a folder name as image, and then the name of the image. So if you see here, I have a folder which is static, and then it has the same name as that of my application. And inside this, I have already told you that I've used some CSS. So this is the bootstrap that I've already downloaded. So it's up to you if you want to use it or you don't want to use it. So just to represent this better, I have just downloaded the bootstrap and then I have just put it over here. So I'll just show you from where you can download the bootstrap. So I'll go to Google and I'll just type in bootstrap. So this is the website from where you can download your bootstrap. So here it has a lot of things that you can practice. So here it says download bootstrap, you can download the source and many other things are there. Now if you see at examples, you can find a million of examples over here. So what I've done, I've just simply downloaded this bootstrap. So this is a zip file that comes with us. So what I've done, I've just extracted this folder and just pasted it over here. So this file contains a CSS, your fonts, and your JavaScript. So this already contains a lot of things. It has CSS, it has themes, and many other things. Now, the one thing that I have added is the image folder. Now here if you see, I have added these 6 images in the website. Now if you click on that, so this is the first image that I've added to the website. Let me just show you where this image is exactly on the website. So this is the first image which has the name of live classes. So this is my first image. Similarly, there is a second image, and similarly I have other feature images as well. So this is my feature 2, this is my feature 3, and this is my feature 4. So these are all the static files that I've uploaded to this website. So here in my div tag, I have given the source as static, my image, and the name of my image. Similarly, I have done it for all the images. Next, I have created a navigation bar which is there in the left hand side. So this is my navigation bar which contains 3 tabs, that is home, courses, and contacts. So this is my home, courses, and contacts. So here I have used the list which goes to different URLs at the same time. So if I go to my home, I have a different view which is displayed. If I go to courses, I have a different view, and similarly with contact. So this is all about my left navigation bar. Again, I have created one more div tag where I have placed these static files. So next I've also created one more div tag where I have placed the slider. So this is the slider that I'm talking about. This is this code for slider, and in the end I've just added a footer. So in footer I have just added the hyperlinks to it. So if you click on contact, a new URL will open. If you click on Facebook, a new link will open, and similarly with the YouTube. So my application is completed. Now let me go to the other application, which is courses. So if you go to the URLs of the main project, this I have already covered. So next let us go to the courses application and just hop into courses.urls.com. So courses, I'll go to urls.py file. So here I've created a URL pattern. Now here I've already told you that in courses I have created a list. So in a list it collects different objects which is created in a admin panel. So here I have written a query set which says post, which is the name of my model, and then we have selected all the objects and then we have ordered by date. Now minus date represents the descending order, and if you want to place a limit to it, you can place a limit, let's say 25. So only 25 courses can come at one go. Next I've created one more template which is courses.html, and if you need a detailed description to it, you have to create another URL which has a PK, which is a primary key. Now you will not create a primary key. Django does it for you. So here it will represent your first column in the model. So here I have specified the model is my post, and here I have displayed one more template which is inside my courses, and this is post.html. So let me go to courses and post.html. So inside my templates, I have two templates, that is courses and post.html. So this is the HTML for my slider. So it's again extending my main HTML, which is header.html. The inheritance is taking place by the keyword that is extends. Now everything is inside your Jinja logic. Now here I have started a loop which says for post in object list. Now object list is the list of all the objects which are there in post. Now what is post? So post is my model. So let me first go to my models. So here I've created one model. Now I have created a class which is post and have different fields like course, description, and date. So this course has the maximum 140. Description, it has the text field of this, and similarly the date. I have created one more method which basically returns your self.course. So once your model has been created, Let me go back to my courses.html, and here I've applied for loop which says your each object should come in the list. So here I have displayed the post date. Date should come in this format. To display the year first, then the month, followed by the date. After that, I've just given a hyperlink which says courses, and it will fetch the post ID, which is the work of primary key. Basically, it will just tells which column or which courses it has picked up from. So this is my slider. Next is your post.html. So in this post.html, I have just inherit the same header.html file, and inside this I have to display the course, description and date. Now if you notice here, I have written post.body, save and line breaks. So if you go to my website and if I go to inspect, so you can actually see this in different formats. Let's say if you want to see this website in iPhone 6. So this is how my website will look like in iPhone 6. Similarly, you can try for different devices as well. Also, if I close these tabs, now similarly if I open my tab and if I squeeze this window, it will not change anything. So this is what these things do. So this was all about my project. So I hope you get a simple understanding of what exactly all these components and how exactly these components work.
So now moving on towards the final topic of this session, in which I'm going to be sharing a few very important Django interview questions. Now, one of the most common question of Django is if it is better than Flask or not. Django and Flask both map the URLs or addresses typed in the web browsers to functions in Python. Flask is much simpler compared to Django, but Flask does not do a lot for you, meaning you will need to specify the details, whereas Django does a lot for you, wherein you would not need to do much work. Django consists of pre-written code, which the user will need to analyze, whereas Flask gives the user to create their own code. So now moving on towards the next question, which is the difference between Django, Pyramid, and Flask. Flask is actually a micro framework, guys, which is primarily built for small applications with simpler requirements. In Flask, you have to use external libraries. However, Flask is ready to use. Pyramid is built for larger applications. It provides flexibility and lets the developer use the right tools for their product. The developer can choose the database, URL structure, templating style, and more. Pyramid is highly configurable. Django, on the other hand, can also be used for larger applications just like Pyramid, and it also includes an ORM. ORM actually stands for Object Relational Mapping Layer. Now, this layer can be used to interact with application data from various relational databases such as SQLite, MySQL, etc. So now moving on towards the next question, which is the Django architecture. Like I've already told you all before, Django follows an MVC-MVT architecture. MVC stands for Model View Controller. It is used for developing web applications where we break the code into various segments. Here we have three segments, namely the model, view, and a controller. Model is used for storing and maintaining data. It is the backend where your database is defined. Views, on the other hand, are all about presentation, and it is not at all aware of the backend. It basically deals with more of HTML. A controller is a business logic which will interact with the model and the view. So now talking about the MVT architecture of Django, MVT stands for Model View Template. In MVT, there is a predefined template for user interface. Say for example, you write several static HTML forms like Hello User 1, Hello User 2, and so on. With template, you'll be having only one file that prints hello along with the variable name. Now this variable will be substituted in that particular template using some Jinja logic. That's the magic of template. You don't need to rewrite the code again and again. However, in the MVT architecture, Django itself takes care of the controller part. So now moving on towards the next question, which is how to set up the database in Django. So like I've already told you all before, the SQLite database comes as a default configuration along with Django. If you're new to databases and you're just interested in trying Django, this is the easiest choice. SQLite is included in Python, so you don't need to install anything else to support your database. In case you're working on some real big projects, you will need to use a more robust database like Oracle, MySQL, etc. Now, to connect your project to the database, you'll have to type the command python manage.py migrate. The migrate command, like I've already told you all before, will look at the installed app settings and creates any necessary database tables according to the database settings in your settings.py file. So now moving on towards the next question, which is give an example of how you can write a view in Django. For an example of how to write a view in Django, you can actually refer to the code I've shown you all before. So here is what our final view looked like. A view basically shows the user what he sees on the website. And like I've already explained all this to you all before, it either has a response or a render method which will return the required data to the user on the website. So here is an example of a view, guys. So now let's move on towards the next question, which is mention what the Django templates consist of. The template is a simple text file. It can create any text-based format such as XML, CSV, HTML, etc. A template contains variables that get replaced with the values when the template is evaluated and the tags that control the logic of the template. So now moving on towards the next question, which is what is the use of session in Django framework? Django provides a session that lets you store and retrieve on a per site visitor basis. Django abstracts the process of sending and receiving cookies by placing a session ID cookie on the client side and storing all the related data on the server side. So the data itself is not stored on the client side. This is actually very nice from a security perspective. So now moving on towards the next question, which is list out the inheritance styles in Django. In Django, there are basically three possible inheritance styles. The abstract base classes. This style is used when you only want the parent class to hold information that you do not want to type out for each child model. The multi-table inheritance. The multi-table inheritance is used if you are subclassing an existing model and need each model to have its own database table. The third one is proxy models. You can use this model if you want to modify the Python level behavior of the model, however, without changing the model's fields. So now moving on, what is the difference between a project and an app? Now many of us actually get confused between apps and projects. An app is a web application that does something. For example, in a weblog system, a database of public records is a simple app. A project is actually a collection of configurations and apps for a particular website. A project can contain multiple apps and an app can be in multiple projects. So now moving on towards the final question of this session, which is what is a model? A model is actually a single definitive source of truth about your data. It contains the essential fields and behaviors of the data you're storing. Django follows the DRY principle or the do not repeat yourself principle. The goal is to define your data model in one place and automatically derive things from it. This includes the migrations. For example, migrations are entirely derived from your models file and are essentially just a history that Django can roll through to update your database schema to match your current models. So with this, we've reached the end of this session on Django full course. Make sure to practice as much as possible, and in case you have any doubts or queries, please do let me know in the comment section and I will revert to you at the earliest. Goodbye and take care.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!